Well, good evening and welcome everyone to another Sunday night here at Poe on the Go. And tonight we've got a really good topic, something that I think you're going to see a lot of really interesting points that cross over into the world of Scientology. And it's to me, it's something that I have been really looking into quite a bit as of late. As you know, my history is I've done a lot of work with human trafficking, a lot of domestic violence, and those kinds of situations. And the crossovers are just unbelievable. But you know how it goes, folks. Before we start any of these Sunday nights, we always bring in our good old pal, get the weather report. Clearwater Chad, how's it going?
Thanks, Paul. We got a lot of work to do. We're going to get right to work. 85 degrees in Clearwater, Florida. 20% precip. Winds at 9. 71% humid, Poe. Back to you, Poe.
Awesome. Now we've been getting hit with some pretty good rain around here as of late. Went out to mow the yard today, and if you've seen my video reviewing the Cub Cadet Ultima ZT1, that thing is just, I'm literally tail drifting that thing everywhere in the yard right now. It's crazy. So I had to go pretty simple on it. But yeah, we've been just getting dumped with rain. I'd say the grass growth out there right now is equal to, at least when I cut it today, it's been about a week since I cut it, and it's equal to about 2 weeks worth of growth. So,
Wow.
I wish I had some other plants out back that were receiving that kind of attention, but I'll leave that to folks who do it professionally. So let's see who all we got in here tonight. I see we've got Boss Mama Goldie, and y'all make sure you show your love and respect for the moderator queen, Boss Mama Goldie. So let's see who else we've got as we're waiting for folks to come in. I know that Aaron's got his stream going, and if any of you are over there, ask him what happened to my signs. I made it some signs. I noticed he put up that fancy new neon light. Where's my signs at? Daniel Sanders, welcome back, Daniel. Great having you in here. Let's see. I don't know, James. Thank you for being here. Always a pleasure. And am I correct in this is your first time catching a live here? Let's see. Daniel, just waiting for you to go on. Thank you. Dylan Chatterton. Loving the Cop and Car series. Well, I can tell you I'm really enjoying doing the Cop Talk with Chief Poe, and I hopefully Chad feels the same way, but I'm having a great time with the Car Talk series that we're doing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm having just an awesome time with that. Electric Boogaloo, thank you for joining us. Nerman, hey, what's going on? Catherine Gallagher and Electric Boogaloo, what's up? Electric Boogaloo wants to know, what's the time where you are, Chad? I feel like it must be late after your long stream with Denver and Maryland.
It's late enough, 8:03. Yep.
Yeah, it's you're Eastern Standard Time, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think you're same time zone as I am over here in Michigan. So
okay.
I don't think they actually get the time shift until you hit over into Indiana, Illinois, the area there. So I know, like I've said it before, the wife has a courier service, and no, Dylan, that's Clearwater, Florida, not Buffalo, New York.
Yeah. Luckily it's the same time zone.
Yeah, it's the same zone. Let's see. Oh, and Paul Mom's here. Howdy, how you doing? What was I even saying there? I can't remember. So how was you did a stream with Denver and Maryland today?
Yeah, just a Q&A, type thing. It was fun.
That's awesome. How'd that go?
It was, like you said, it was long. I think it was, I don't know, I think they said it was over 2 hours, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, just got off at about 7. Got something to eat and right back at it.
But you had double tap in there, so I'm sure
she was double tapping too.
What's that?
She was double tapping too.
Was she really again?
Yeah. So that keeps it going.
Folks, if you don't know what I'm talking about, was that the Chatathon where that happened, or where was
probably
that? Yeah, we were doing a stream with Marilyn Honig, and if you don't know Marilyn from Colts Crafts and Coffee, and she was using her laptop and she kept double tapping on the pressure pad there, and so we figured we might as well give her the nickname of Double Tap. So she's wonderful. Her husband her husband Duncan, real great guy. He joins us. He comes in and chat quite a bit, and he's just a real great guy. I love them both. They're both real good people. And for anyone that's asking, the ornament that is on the front of my microphone from Mandy Gonzalez, and I'm going to put the email link in there. She also does a Team Mic that all the proceeds from the Team Mic sales are going to Mike Render, and an SPTV one as well. So make sure you get out there, show her some love. Make sure you're showing Goldie some love. Dave, what's up, brother? My buddy Dave from Gotta Love Thailand. If you haven't had a chance, get over there. Dave, are you going on after me, or when's your next live stream there, Dave? Real great guy, lives over in the Middle Eastern part of Thailand with his wife and his family there. Has some great content. He's just a good guy all around. Love watching his stuff. I just, lately I just don't have the time to get in on a lot of these streams that I'd like to. Let's see. We got PA girl here. Howdy, SP. How you doing? Let's see make sure we're not missing any. Oh, 8 points of out R factor. Kia ora all. I don't know. I'm so out of it right now. I did it again. Got out there working in the yard in the heat and overdid it as usual. Had to come in and de-chill for a while. And I'm doing fine now, but man, I'm going to be 55 end of November, and I'm really feeling it nowadays, folks. Even Dave's going to be going live at 9:30. Thank you, brother. So let me see if I can find something real quick here. Like I said, Dave is a great guy. He puts out some great content. He loves living over there in Thailand, and he tells it about how the fact is that he, he's found the new love of his life over there. They're building this great life together, and I believe it's Nitnoy is her name. Takes real good care of him. Dave's like me, full-figured gal. He got a big bushy white beard and mustache, looks like Santa Claus, and I think the proper name for him would be Bad Santa. Aaron, what's going on? Let's see. Chad, is little Chad paying half of the rent?
I wish. Am I right? You better step on it, little Chad.
And for those of you that don't know, little Chad right there in front, well, mini Chad, right in front of our good friend Clearwater Chad there, was made by Marilyn Honig, and she is an amazing person. I don't want to say knitting or crochet. I don't know which one it is. I can't figure it out half the time. But if you look at that, look at the detail on the Hawaiian shirt there on him and everything. That's just amazing. So if you have something that you'd like to, some kind of special order you'd like to make, or some idea that you have, make sure you get hold of Marilyn over there. She's a wonderful person, just a really nice person. You can catch her over at the on Facebook, Coffee Cults and Crafts, and you'll see I post on there a lot. Chad posts on there, so it's pretty good stuff. I'm just taking a minute or two. We're waiting to see what's going on with Aaron and his live stream over there. I know he had like 2 bazillion super chats came in towards the end there, so I just wanted to make sure that we're not stepping on any toes there. I don't want to. Yep, he's still going live. Okay. That boy's got a lot of lung power, don't he? Have you had the that electric vehicle you got there, Chad? You had it out lately, or what's going on with that?
Well, I didn't leave the house yesterday, but I had it running yesterday. pretty much every day.
Awesome. And how's it running? Still holding up good for you and everything?
Oh yeah. It's been saving a lot of gas.
Yeah. And Dave, when you see Nitnoy, let her know Swadakop and Kalkun Kop for taking care of you. So, nice. I just, my good friend Dana Bluin and his wife Jib, they live in Bangkok. They have a great channel called Idea Studio Bangkok. Great people. And, it's just, for me, if I could get the wife to move there, I'd be living in Thailand right now. We live so much better than we do. I mean, my pension and everything, we'd live better than we do with my pension and the added fact that we own a business. So, and plus I just love it. I'm getting real tired of the cold weather here in Michigan. The wintertime, I feel like I'm absolutely dying. And there. It never gets under 70 degrees, so it'd be a perfect location for me. Let's see. Electric Boogaloo jumped out early from errands to come here. Well, thank you, Electric Boogaloo. We appreciate you. Aaron, yeah. I'm going to be getting into some more of that stuff. We got. Have you talked to Simon yet, Chad?
I emailed him
Okay.
I forwarded him that thing earlier today, right when you said.
Excellent. Hopefully this Wednesday we're going to have Borderline Watt, aka Simon, and he has, if you hadn't seen it over on Chad's channel, he has an amazing story. A lot of personal dealings with the F1 series over there in Europe, and he lives right down the road from the Lotus factory. Another gearhead, just like a bunch of us are, and really nice guy. So hopefully everything will work out, and we'll be able to get him on this Wednesday night for Car Talk. But coming up in the next couple of Car Talks, I want to talk about motorcycles. And yes, I've seen that Harley has a fully electric bike. They've been coming out with some pretty interesting things as of late, but I think that one of the problems is that Harley, it seems like they got themselves locked in on styling and on performance and things like that with the Harley Davidsons that they've had. And don't get me wrong, I love Harley, but I love old Harley. I like shovel heads. I like the Evos. I'll even venture into the twin cams. I can't afford a panhead, but I've got a friend who's got a panhead and a shovel. I had a 77 shovel head. I just think that they got themselves locked into that styling that came about at a certain point, and they don't know how to pull forward with something that doesn't look like a Japanese or Asian styled bike. And, they came out with the Rev Tech or the Revolution engine. And it really, a lot of people really didn't like it. You've got other companies out there like Victory, and you got Indian are coming out with just some beautiful bikes. And there you go, Aaron. Let's see. There we go. I like the Indian better than the Harley Davidson. I've always liked Indian better than Harley. I just can't afford an Indian. So get those super chats. No, I'm joking. Let's see. You're planning on a video about the different agencies, departments sharing info during the Boston. Yes, I am going to be coming up with some about something with that. If you've looked at my schedule coming up on Cop Talk number 6, I'm going to be dealing with impersonators. And on 7, I'm going to be dealing with sovereign citizens. We'll be going back and forth. I'm going to be pulling some video clips for some other topics. We're going to be doing, just citizen freakouts, those kinds of things. Let's see. Chetza. Oh, can't wait to talk about motorcycles. Well, definitely going to, that'll be there pretty soon. I don't know if I still have that up there or not, but yeah, I've had several motorcycles in my life. I love motorcycles. Harley, man, I've always loved Harley Davidson. I love the feel. I love the way the bikes ride. I'm just everything, the styling of them. This was my 1993 Harley Davidson Fat Boy, and appropriate for me being a full figure gal like I am. Now, I bought the bike pretty much like it is. It had that paint job on it. It had all the chrome and everything. The only thing that I did was I took the front wheel off and I made a jig so that I could put a sander and then move to a polisher. And on your Harley Davidson Fat Boys, typically the front wheel is a solid aluminum wheel, and it has like that rough cast look to it. And so what I did was I hooked it up so that the tire spun around, and it had a sander that sat down on it, and it sanded that, got it down to smooth. Then we went to polishing stones and everything like that. And then finally with the polishing pads, looked like chrome. Wow. So go ahead, Goldie. Got my coffee already. So yes, they have been, Victory went out of business. The thing is, I'm seeing more Victories on the road now than I've ever seen before. I didn't know they'd gone out of business. I'm so far out of the loop when it comes to the with the motorcycle companies and all that. I don't ride anymore. As I've said before, I've got nerve damage in my hands. It gets pretty painful. I am working out best as I can to start getting myself back in shape on that, because if I'm going to do this 6,000-mile journey through Southeast Asia on a motorcycle, and then backing up with at least 1,000 miles in South America. And now the motorcycle company I'm talking to has asked me if I would be interested in doing one through Nepal, and then down through India, all the way down to the bottom of India as well. So we're working on 3 big motorcycle trips. We're talking within about 6 months time. I'm going to do probably, oh Lord, 13,000 miles on a motorcycle. So it's going to be crazy, but I'm down for it. You
It's
know,
great fun.
if you've ever heard of it, there's a challenge that used to be every year. It was called the Iron Butt Challenge, riding from LA to New York City on solid or rigid suspension motorcycles. And basically you get on these bikes and you ride them all the way across country. They have a crash truck that follows everyone. And it's literally what it means. Crash truck is for if you crash out or if your bike breaks down. It's a great way to get things rolling with that. Let's see, Chitsa, I rode a single cylinder BMW from here, Alabama to Alaska a few years ago. That's awesome.
Wow.
My big one is I started here, rode all the way across the northern top of the United States, then up to Alaska, from Alaska all the way down to the Mexican border in California, then followed the borderline on the highways and roadways all the way across to Florida, down to Key West, Florida, back up to Maine, and all the way back home. It took 2 months to do it, and I can't even remember the number of miles. I think we did something like 8,000 miles on that trip. There were 3 of us that did it, and believe it or not, all riding Harleys, and not a single one of them broke down on the trip, which is amazing for a Harley.
Wow.
So,
They're probably electric, right, Poe?
no, it straight up dinosaur dunk. So let's see. Juliana, howdy. Hola. I believe that's correct. Juliana is from Brazil, just sending some love. Gotta eat something. We'll have at it, huh?
Yep.
You can eat and listen too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. I want another bike, but my girl who is a nurse said, no, I don't want you as a patient. She says, thing is that when it comes to motorcycles, it may or it may not happen. You never know what's going to happen. But the fact is you just got to have faith in yourself and just keep have eyes in the back of your head when you're riding. It's, I've ridden motorcycles since I was a child. And yep, I've laid a couple of bikes down in my time. And every time I've laid them down, it's been my fault. Mm-hmm. So yes, Electric Boogaloo, folks, make sure you please hit that, smash that like button. And thing is that, okay, yeah, I got another question I just saw there. Yeah, make sure you hit that, because what happens is that helps with the algorithms. And after this post, you can go down into the actual comment section afterward, not the live replay. And you post in there, and that helps with the algorithm as well. Someone had made a comment that had sent me a message saying that they couldn't pull up the live replay of the chat on the replay of the live stream. I went in under my wife's account, pulled it up, and it came up. So I don't know what's going on with that. And then on top of it, Catherine Gallagher, several creators have mentioned about checking about being subscribed. Make sure that you have your subscription go on, that your subscription's still there, that you have the notification bell hit. One of the big things is I literally, I'll go in, and an hour later I'll have 15 less subscribers. And then I start getting the messages, hey, I was unsubscribed from your channel. What did I do? No, it had nothing to do with me. It's YouTube. So can you talk about helmets and how stupid it is to buy the fake DOT stickers? Well, the thing is, there's a reason for the helmets, folks. I'm going over and I'm going to be doing this huge ride through Southeast Asia, and I'm going to be wearing a DOT helmet the whole time that I'm riding. Yeah, I'm doing a couple things to it. It's going to look pretty cool, but it doesn't do anything to affect the crash safety of the helmet. And the fact is if you're going to wear a helmet, don't go out and buy one of those cheap skull cap helmets and put a DOT sticker on it, because what is going to happen is if you actually get into an accident, is that going to be any more effective than putting, say, a Tupperware bowl on your head? So yeah, just make sure that if you're doing it. And when we do the motorcycle talk on Car Talk, I'll make sure I bring that up as well. One with cats. Oh no, Mini Chat is smoking.
He's trying to quit though.
Yeah. we've had a long talk with him about it, and it's yeah, it's sad. So let's see, Electric Boogaloo on a phone. The chat doesn't easily let you select live chat. I need to select settings in chat, then you can swipe between comments and live chat. That's yeah. I mean, I don't understand. I'm not one of these technical people who can handle this stuff, so I don't know how a lot of that works. And I don't want to lead any of you down the wrong thing, but I can definitely say that there has been a certain problem with people being unsubscribed from the channel without actually having been unsubscribed. And I don't understand it. I go up at 1 minute, I look and I have 3,167 subscribers. I go in an hour later and I've got 3,140 subscribers. And it may not seem like that much, when you get over the 1,000 subscriber mark, but it all adds up, and it's a problem. Okay. Let's see. Oh my gosh, yeah. The Daniel Sander, the French sure know how to protest, don't they? My goodness, is that country burning or what?
Yeah.
And what I find really sad is how much are we actually hearing about it from the mainstream media here in the United States? That's absolutely driving me bonkers. I'm having to get everything from YouTube channels and things like that, and it's just wild what's going on over there. So, all right, well, we've given it enough time, and so let's go ahead and start getting into what we're talking about tonight. So, folks, if you have any questions, please, I'm going to show you an example. When you want to, if you got a question that you want me or Chad to answer, just literally there it is in the chat. Just do it like that. Put question in all caps, and then the rest of it, take your caps lock off. Or if you have a question you immediately want answered, throw it in there in the super chat. If you can't do a super chat, that's not a problem. Go ahead and just do it the regular way with the question in all capital letters. Let's see. This is an interesting one. Have either of you ever had something named after you or kicked anything off in your work that set a new standard? Chad?
No, unfortunately not.
I don't believe that.
Not yet, anyways.
All right.
How about you, Poe?
Let's see. Was on my way to a shooting call, and the patrol vehicle that I was in lost control, and I ended up taking out the garage door on our city DPW building. So when they bricked it all up, they called the new wall the Poe wall. So
wow,
I literally had like 3 months on the job. We got a report of a shooting going on. There were subjects down, and you know what? I was full of adrenaline, and I let it rip. Come around the corner and yell. I'll admit it. I was going faster than I should have, considering that, people talk about, you see from the Ghostbusters, the Blues Brothers movies and things like that. People talking about it's got cop suspension. It's got the cop this. It's got the cop that. And literally, there's so much more to it than that. You got to remember, police cars are heavier to begin with because they have so much added equipment in them. Then on top of it, they have, if you're not checking the pressure in your tires, things like that, they can literally be, it can cause you to have an accident because you can't control, because you don't have the right tire pressure in there. So, it's any number of things, but it all came down to adrenaline, driving too fast, and not as good a driver at that time as I thought I was. And I paid for it with 5 days off without pay. So, and I was thankful to have that, because the other alternative would have been unemployment. So, they named a wall after me. In 30 years, no one will know why it is the Poe wall. The thing is that to this day, everybody still knows about it. As a matter of fact, the bumper from that car, my lieutenant, the bumper was torn off the car. My lieutenant kept it, and he made sure everybody from the shift signed it and gave it to me when he retired. That was pretty funny.
That's funny.
Let's see. You have a football team named after you, Baltimore Ravens. Yeah. Yeah. I try. I told them they should pick someone else better, but they said, no, Poe, you're too much of a legend. Ask Nasty Nathaniel. He'll tell you.
Yep.
We did have the police pursuit packages, but you got to remember, you're talking about cars that are beaten every day. The suspensions start going bad after a while. They just, they've got some boot and scoot to them, but the fact is that we have we beat the daylights out of those cars. We don't own them. We don't have to pay to repair them. We don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Get this over a little bit so people see it better. And that's the fact of it, is that you just don't know what you're getting into. I've told the story, I don't know how many times, about the fact I was driving down the road, hit the brakes, and the airbag went off in the car because the guy drove it before me had went over some really bad tracks and pretty much had crushed the airbag system in the car. And so when I hit the brakes, it just jostled it enough to cause the airbags to go off. Norman, democracy is not a spectator sport. Fight for your First Amendment rights. Yeah, I'm just, it's crazy to me what's going on over in France. They are literally, that country's known for the fact that they, that they revolt, that they will take out those in power if need be. So it's insane. Question first, good to see you, Chief. Thank you. And you too, Chad.
Thank you.
Do PDs take accidents that are the fault of the officer's fault? Seriously. I could tell you any accident I've been in, whether I've been at fault or not, in a department car, we always called for the state police to come out. Some agencies will call for the sheriff's department to come out. Other agencies will call other agencies in, and then some of them just don't care, and they have their own agency take it. And that can also come down to, do you have the ability to get someone there to come and take that police report from you? So that's always a matter. No, I was not a motor officer. Actually, I got promoted, and I couldn't, because of my promotion, I wasn't eligible to go to that school. They had to send someone that was lower ranking than me. Although I did go to Milwaukee for 2 weeks and went to the Harley Davidson theft school, which was really crazy. And part of that was a riding course where we learned everything about how you can lay a motorcycle down at 30, 35 miles an hour and stand up on the engine and ride it out till the bike stops. It's kind of crazy. I had a real good time, and I passed that course quite well. So it was actually harder than the motorcycle course that we had here in Michigan that was certified, but because it wasn't the Michigan certified course, I couldn't use it when I came back. Plus, at that point, I was already in the going into the Detectives Bureau, so I wasn't going to be able to ride motorcycle anyway. Let's see. Yep, because I've seen retired cop cars auctioned off. Yeah, well, what do you think happens? That a police department is willing to sell off a vehicle. You got to think about how much damage and repair that car has gotten to, that it's at the point where it's cheaper just to go ahead and sell it off than keep maintaining it and buying a new car. So Paris sure ain't what it used to be, that's for sure. I'll be honest with you, I've never been a fan of Paris, of France. I've had some really bad interactions in France, and I'm not a fan of it. Michael Andreas, I was under the impression that police package upgrade to the basic vehicle design is improved suspension, electrical system, or radiator, and not the engine. It's all dependent, because you look at some of the Ford vehicles and they say Interceptor right on them, meaning that they have the upgraded engine systems on them. As for the Chevys, I can tell you that they had a better engine in them. They were a lot faster, and the Tahoes were just amazing. Let's see, Daniel Sander, my favorite police vehicle is the SUVs. I like the Tahoes. I remember back in the early 90s, we had an old square body Chevy S10 Blazer, and I loved that truck. It was just a cool little thing. The city that I started with and retired from the first time is only 2.5 square miles, so you didn't need a big fast car. Yeah, we did have some great interceptors, but that was part of it. Jenny Wong, and welcome Michael and Jenny. My son just has his physical to pass, and he will be going to the police academy in Brisbane. I'm really happy for him as a mom, and scared as well. Well, the thing is that you're always going to have that worry, no matter what kind of job he's doing. He could end up, being hurt on anything. He can be hurt walking down the street. But the fact is, you have to have faith in your child. And if he's proving that he is competent enough and physically capable of doing the job as a police officer, you know, and it's great to see that you're proud of it and all that. I hate to see new young people getting into law enforcement because the way things are nowadays, the way that people look at police and what's going on in the world. For an old dog like me, it's it's not that. I'm used to that kind of stuff. I've got years and years, decades under my belt that I'm used to how people treat police and how things are. And that's I'm very happy for him. Tell him I would like to get a patch or something. I have a good friend who was part of the federal police. He was out of Canberra, and real good guy. He retired out about 5 years ago now. Lady BB, welcome. Yeah, I need a vacation of pretty much every day. Roscoe's driving me nuts. I don't know what that dog has gotten into, but he's been coming in lately stinking to high heaven. He's had to have 3 baths in a week. And he's just, I don't know, he's getting older, and it seems like he has his moments where he likes to just chill out. He'll go out there and lay right in the sunlight in the middle of the yard, just lay there. And then he will come in and he will get the zoomies, and he just growling, just running around the house as fast as he can, running up over top of you, running on the couch, on the tables, whatever he can do. And that dog can jump. He can jump up and touch me nose to nose. And I'm 6'2". So, man, that dog, times I think, why didn't we get an old dog? But we love Roscoe. On all the shows, cops, lawyers, public defenders, doctors, forensics, nuns, writers, and everyone seems to be the investigators. Who actually normally investigates, or does anyone? That's all going to come down to the area where you live. And sometimes it's going to be specific to a state. Sometimes it's going to be specific to a city or a county agency. But for the most part, from my experience, your local law enforcement agency is going to do the initial investigations. Now, if it's going to require a heavy deal of forensics, it's going to depend on whether or not your agency has the ability to do the forensics work. Most of the time, if we had a homicide or something like that, and we needed forensics in there to check out any evidence that we found, we would call in the Michigan State Police, and they'd send out their forensics vehicle. It's just a pickup truck towing a trailer that had all the equipment they needed in it to do the actual forensics work on the scene. I've never had anyone from the medical examiner, and in other places it's called the coroner, other places the pathologist, but I've never had anyone come out to a scene and do an investigation. I've never had anyone from the prosecutor's office come out and do their own investigation. They'll come out and they will view the scene and see what's going on. Forensics teams, basically everybody sticks in their own lane in the way it works in my experience with law enforcement. Forensics teams come out, they collect evidence, they take it back they bag it, take it back to the lab, test it, and send you the results. They don't go out and start questioning witnesses, things like that. It's almost always the detectives that are your uniform officers who are initially on scene are going to do the initial investigation. Your detectives are going to follow it up from that. Any evidence is going to be submitted to the proper authority, and then it's going to go from there. But, of course, with television, they can't have NCIS or what is that? CSI. They've got to look like they're out there doing the actual job. And if you notice with a lot of these shows, they make the boots on the ground uniform officers look like they're stupid. And
let me ask you a question, Poe. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
In real life, does these crimes get solved in 22 minutes like on the TV shows or what?
Yeah, every one of them. We have to, of course, we have to take commercial breaks. We're required by the union and the Actors Guild and everything. No. There are cases. That's why we have cold case files. That's, sometimes things just don't happen. Literally had a guy who had been shot by someone with a shotgun. They got him with bird pellets, but it had collapsed his lung. He was laying in a hospital bed. The doctors told me that there's a very high likelihood that he would die. I knew this guy. I've known him since he was a small kid. He always been in trouble, always had things going on. I walked up and I'm like, dude, you could die and we would not know who did this to you. You need to let me seek justice. And he looked at me and he goes, F you, I ain't telling the cops. All right. Had it not been for the neighbors' security cameras out there, we never would have known who had shot him. But it was also, we found out that he was in front of this person's home waving a handgun, and the person came out with a shotgun. He actually shot the person with the shotgun who'd come out to defend his home, killed that person, but before that person died, they got a shot off on him. Insane. Joel McCoy, in our little country, we always get used cars. It's amazing to me how well they get by with not as great cars. I'm a proponent of getting them new cars. Worn out cars are a danger for us all. Yeah, and that's one of the big problems is that, if you look at how much a new car costs as compared to, say, a used car, and then you're looking at how much it costs to equip that vehicle for law enforcement concerns, and it's a huge amount of money. You're talking a car that could be 50-60 grand, but by the time you're done equipping it for law enforcement, you're talking $80,000 to $100,000 per car. So departments run those cars as long and as hard as they can because it costs so much money to have to replace them. So that's going to give you an idea. When you see law enforcement agencies putting vehicles up for auction, you don't know what those cars have been through. And a lot of people don't realize that. Let's see. You need to understand what you're getting yourself into, how to figure it out. Exactly. That's a big one. That Beagle has seen some. No, we've had Roscoe since he was a pup. Actually, I'm a bit upset with the rescue group that we got him from, because all of the dogs were weaned way too early from their mother, and they were all either spay or neutered. And my problem with that is dogs develops emotional and attachment issues because of the early weaning. Roscoe will literally, if the wife's outside now and our son's outside, they're doing some yard work, things like that, Roscoe's out there with them. If they were in the house, just sitting down watching TV or doing something, Roscoe would be right outside the door of my office here, and he would wait there until I'm done. I try to bring him in, but he starts getting a little too antsy. He expects dad to play with him, and it's just, so I can't have him in here while I'm doing the live streams. But yeah, he has very bad attachment issues. If there's no one home, or say our son is, he's working late nights, he'll be in bed. I'll leave to go somewhere. The wife is gone. Roscoe will literally throw a fit. He will sit there and whine and cry. We call it the dolphin time, because he literally sounds like a dolphin with a kind of sound, but real high pitched. But yeah, he's an awesome little dog, and he's not been in any battles in his life yet, other than battling that Frisbee he's torn to bits. Could never be a cop in Clearwater. Just not my personality. I think that it's anywhere. Florida is going to be an exceptionally hard one. If you've ever seen the Florida Man kind of videos and memes that are out there, sorry. Like I said, I got myself out there and overdid it again today. The air's on, the fan's on me, but I'm still burning up. But if you've seen the Florida Man videos, you have all of these tourists that are coming down to Florida, and they're spending a lot of time and a lot of money in the state. So you want to be cool with them, but you also got to enforce the laws. Then on top of it, you have some of those redneckishness kind of people that live down that way that basically have the mentality of hold my beer, watch this. I mean, some of the crazy stuff I've seen people doing, and believe me, I've spent my life back and forth from Florida, and I can't believe some of the things I see. Do you feel time doesn't add? I feel like, SOs shouldn't ever see sunlight again. Do you feel the same way? We have the lifetime registry for most people who are SOs, and I'm trying not to get myself demonetized because I don't know what the rules are from YouTube nowadays. They change hour by hour, but it's going to be dependent. I mean, there are so many different levels. I know of a man who is on I believe it's 27 years that he is on the sex offender registry. I can't believe I said it. And you know what his crime was? He got caught at 2 different festivals urinating in public. Indecent exposure. And it put him on the offender registry. So I think that it's all dependent on the case itself, but anyone who actually goes through and anyone who does something to children, yeah, lock them away, throw away the key. You know, um, we do have a constitution in this country, and we have to weigh out how things are. But considering the fact of these DNA groups that are coming out nowadays and showing people who were actually innocent through DNA and things like that, you know, sometimes it's best to hold off judgment and let the courts do that, not us. Aaron, crime doesn't add up to the time. Sometimes I've seen folks who definitely needed to be put away that got a slap on the wrist. Oh, you mean there's not always magically perfect fingerprint and video? What? Yes, of course that works. When I graduated from Hogwarts and I had a doctorate post harmony in criminal justice, I was able to go out and instantly find fingerprints anywhere through the use of a snakewood wand. Now, I mean, honestly, folks think that, there's got to be fingerprints. Well, the surface that the fingerprint would be on has to be something that would be able to give us a viable fingerprint. There's so many things that go into it. People say, well, what about DNA? Did you collect DNA? Well, yeah, we collected DNA. And when the test came back, the person whose DNA we found is not in the system. Well, that's impossible. Well, no, it's not impossible, because there have to be certain reasons that they can collect DNA from people in this country. So yeah, there's no magic wand for any of that stuff. And it's crazy. In Australia, we just have the state police or federal police. But the U.S. seems to have sheriffs, police, state troopers, rangers. Can you tell us how it all works? Is it confusing at all? The big thing is that they're law enforcement agencies. Each one has their specific tasks. City, township, village police are hired directly by that city, township, or village, and they patrol that area, and that's their job. When it comes into the county sheriff's department, of course, that encompasses the entire county, and they generally work with the local departments in enforcing the laws. State police, of course, statewide. Then we have the different alphabet soup agencies that the United States has, the FBI, the DOJ, the DOD. It gets ridiculous, and they all have different tasks that they use, and I've never been a fan of any of them except for the U.S. Marshal Service. Rangers, and that comes under different headings, because here in the state of Michigan and in Ohio that I know of, they have what are called rangers, park rangers, and they specifically work with what are called metro parks, which are metropolitan park agencies or metropolitan park districts. And basically what they are is they control a number of big publicly available parks, and they act as law enforcement. They are certified law enforcement officers, and it works here in Michigan. We have what is called police authority. Public Act 330A gives certain entities within the state that are non-governmental agencies the ability to have their own police units, which are called police authority. And basically they have authority only within the grounds that they're on. They can't pull traffic stops, things like that. In Michigan, park rangers are a separate entity that has the full of powers of a law enforcement agency, meaning they can stop you for traffic citations, things like that. So yeah, it's a big pile of twine that's all rotted together. But the fact is that if they're a police agency, they're going to notify you as such, and they do have authorities. Now, when it comes to the police authority units, like the hospitals and things like that, what happens with those is they have very select powers, and they can only arrest under certain conditions, but they still have police authority, and they are still considered police officers. Nerman, the new gun laws are so out of control in Florida /2003. I'm not up to date with the new gun laws in Florida, but you also have to remember in this country we do have a Second Amendment, and so things get very convoluted because of that Second Amendment stating we have the right to keep and bear arms. Do you have something, Chad?
Yeah, Paul, sorry to interrupt. Degraded Daughters are in the chat. Remember I was telling you about them earlier?
Oh, welcome. And
Degraded Daughters, the Dianetics, I mean.
Oh, excellent. Goldie, can you throw my email up there for me? If y'all could, if you could shoot me an email, I'd love to talk to you. Let's get on down here. I'm getting on down, make sure I'm not missing anything. One of my major concerns as a citizen is the shortage of police officers. This all can lead to the wrong folks being cops. Yeah, and that's been proven. City of Detroit had a big hiring frenzy back in the late 80s, early 90s, where they needed to hire a ton of cops. And they hired people. They took shortcuts on doing the background checks and things like that. Got these folks through the police academy, got them out on the road serving as police officers. And I believe it was up to 2 years later that the Michigan Law Enforcement Officers Training Council was able to start catching up with just the sheer volume of people who were hired in and working as police officers. And come to find out, a good number of them were actual convicted felons who not only could never own a firearm, were never legally allowed to be police officers. Let's see. I find it interesting with wild urinating being considered that seriously, because about a quarter of Germany would be on that registry at least. Yeah, in the United States, we have very different fundamental ways of looking at things. So it's very, very, it's a very different world there. And I know from, having been in Europe many times, yeah, you guys have a much more relaxed view on things such as nudity, open talking about, physical relations, those kinds of things. And, sometimes I wish we had that here in this country so people wouldn't be so scared and nervous about talking about the S word, and I think it could actually help out quite a bit, because so many people grow up and they're learning from the internet, they're learning from friends, and they're not always learning the truth. So, I mean, how many times has anyone heard it that, that one movie where the two girls are talking and she's like, you can't be kissing him while you're in a bathing suit, you'll get pregnant. So it's, I wish we had more open discussion about things. And, but I think that should be left to the parents and the children. And I just don't think that, everyone has their own values, their own sets that they live by. Was Walker, Texas Ranger, a cop? I love the idea of him throwing down in a national park to get the campers to properly dispose of rubbish. He would take down Yogi Bear. Well, and that's one of those things where it is it's a television show. The Texas Rangers are a real unit. They are a specialized unit of the Texas Department of Public Safety, which is basically the state police for the state of Texas. And they are they're some bad boys and girls. Their motto is one ranger, one riot, one ranger. One ranger will go in and take out, stop an entire riot. There's some tough folks. Texas Rangers have a reputation for a reason, but yes, they are police. They are state police in Texas. I work in Antarctica 6 months out of the year. We don't have police, but trust me, they have no problem shipping us out for crimes. Yeah. And what's that movie? The guys who go out and do the crab fishing.
Oh, I don't know.
They go out in the Bering Strait and do the crab fishing and stuff out there. It's I think it's on Discovery or Travel Channel or something like a big popular dangerous catch or dangerous catch or a deadly catch. But one of the things I thought was interesting was these folks moved to Alaska and they want to get in with these fishing rigs and all that. And they think that, I'm running from this, running from that. Man, they check their backgrounds like crazy, find out if they have warrants or anything. So let's see. Well, that's interesting. You had a city paid doctor in health class. That's,
Wow.
I've seen some crazy videos coming out of classrooms lately, and you need some real professionals in there teaching this kind of stuff, not some of these folks that got teaching. We need more public restrooms in the USA. Yeah, believe me. Wait till you get put on water pills by your doctor. Yeah, that's a crazy one. The Texas Rangers conduct major violent crime, public corruption, cold case, officer involved shootings, investigations as part of it. They do a whole lot more, but that's the basis. No, they're not park rangers. They're a completely different thing. And you got to remember, states like Texas and Louisiana, every state has a right to do things a little bit differently. They can call their police officers different things. In Louisiana, you have parishes, and I thought maybe Texas did too, but I know that both of them have what are called constables or constabulary units. And what they are is basically there, instead of a sheriff's department, you have a constable's department. So it's interesting. And oversee the department's border security and tactical crisis negotiation programs. Yeah, they do a lot of stuff. It's a lot. Yeah, deadliest catch, Cobilf.
Oh, okay.
And hello, Jennifer. Welcome, Cobilf. Anyone that I've missed you, I'm sorry. Yeah, Catherine, the Texas Rangers are not a baseball team. So let's get into the topic of tonight. Is Scientology a prison of the mind? What do you think, Chad?
I think it is.
What do you think would be your definition of a prison of the mind? How,
where your, in my opinion, where your mind, you're in there because you think that from the brainwashing, alleged brainwashing, that's why you're in the organization or cult or church or whatever you want to call it. But that's why, because you were programmed because of the prison of the mind.
I look at it as, and I think you're doing very good with that. I look at it as prison of the mind is being part of an organization that so controls you through their policies and everything else that you're willing to give up everything in your life to do what you think is best for that organization or group that you're part of. And that you're so afraid to leave because you have become so intertwined with the way the things work with that organization that it seriously inhibits your ability to think clearly or what you're doing. And I think that one of the best ways to look at something like that is through a term that's somewhat new in the United States. It's a bit older in Europe, and that is coercive control. So I'm going to pull something up here for everyone. Okay, and where is this? There we go. So I'm going to go over this with you. This is from Women's Aid UK, womensaid.org.uk. And basically, it's a nonprofit organization for helping women and children that are victims of domestic abuse or domestic violence. And as they go into the topic of coercive control, and I think this is one of the best ones that I've seen, coercive control is an act or pattern of acts of sexual assault, threats, humiliation, intimidation, or other abuse that is used to harm, punish, or frighten their victim. What do you think about that, Chad?
Yeah, I agree.
This is some pretty clear-cut stuff. The controlling behavior is designed to make a person dependent by isolating them from support, exploiting them, depriving them of their independence, regulating their everyday behavior. I mean, this sounds awful familiar from a lot of stuff we've heard about. Coercive control creates invisible chains and a sense of fear that pervades all elements of the victim's life. It works to limit their human rights by depriving them of their liberty and reducing their ability for action. Experts liken coercive control to being taken hostage. The victim becomes captive in an unreal world created by the abuser and trapped in a world of confusion, contradiction, and fear. I mean, considering all of the SPs that are out there that are now coming forward with their stories and what has happened to them. The thing is, that sounds very, very familiar to me. To a lot of
almost
stories.
Verbatim, almost exactly.
Yeah. So we'll go down into some common examples of coercive behavior. Isolating you from friends and family. Number one.
Check.
I look at that and you think about that. Think about the story of Mark Fisher or Janice Grady Gillum Mike Render, Aaron. And you look at these folks and their children are, as children, they were turned over to this organization and given a guardian from the organization and put into completely, and oftentimes sent to other states, sent to even different countries. So I mean, when we look at this list and we see isolating you from friends and family, I mean, how much more spot on from the reports that we've received from folks who've blown from Scientology about the fact that they were isolated from their friends and family and placed into these situations. That's that's so right, spot on with it. Then we go into the next one, depriving you of your basic needs such as food. When you start listening to stories, say Leah Remini, where she's talking about how they used to sneak in and steal food off plates that people hadn't eaten or snuck in after hours, and they were able to steal food out of the pantry or the kitchen or something like that. And that was the only way they were able to eat. And then you look at the other organizations within it and how people who've left from those, how they're talking about the things that they're put through as part of this organization and how that's affected their lives. And that's just, to me, that's just absolutely insane. Come down to the next one, monitoring your time. How many people have we talked to that were working 12, 16, 18 hours a day as members of the Sea Org and different parts of the COS? And here it is, you're working all these hours, you have just a couple of hours to get a little bit of sleep, get yourself set up, and then get ready to go right back to work the next day. I mean, and everything that they do is monitored. If you get sick, that's because you did something wrong and it's your fault. You have to get to work. You have to save the planet. The planet has to go clear. So, from the reports that we get from all the people that have blown, that is another major one where they are going in and they are monitoring what you're doing, monitoring your time, making sure that you are productive only for the organization and not caring about your family, your friends, or your basic needs. This one, not so much, but I see it more for people who have blown, monitoring you online via communication tools or spyware. And we look at that and we think about how many people who have blown who have talked about having their systems hacked, or the fact that they've got private detectives are following them. They have all these reports on them and things like that, and they are using that as tools against them, or they're looking for ways to build up some kind of evidence against the people. So that's another good one, but I see that more for those who have left. Then we go down to taking control over aspects of your everyday life, such as where you go, who you can see, what you can wear, and when you sleep. And I think that partly goes back into monitoring your time and the labor and everything like that. But as we're looking at that, we start thinking about things like the folks who are in the org who are forced to be on base, and you have these guards that are watching the base gates. You can't get in and out without permission. You have to be a certain place, a certain time. You have to follow certain protocol for everything that you have to do. It's almost a military-like setup that they're making people live in. But on top of it, they are also making you wear their uniforms. They're telling you when you can sleep, when you can't sleep, what you have to do for the organization. So go on to the next one, depriving you access to support services such as medical services. Well, when you think about it and you hear the testimony from people that are coming out and they're talking about the fact you can't call the police, you can't call for an ambulance. If you call for any of those things, you're in violation and there'll be reports on you.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just looking at a couple of the questions that they got there. But I mean, when we start looking at these things and we start seeing what's going on behind the scenes there and how they've treated people, you look at Mark and Claire's story about how Mark had wrecked his motorcycle and the fact that they didn't want to call the ambulance for him. That right there is a supreme example of the fact of depriving you access to support services such as medical services. And here's a good one, repeatedly putting you down, such as saying you're worthless. Well, how many times have we heard the stories about the folks that were in the chamber meetings with the Keebler elf and the way that, the plate face, things like that, degrading people, about the things that he would say to the female board members that were there, just horrible, despicable things, and how that's part of the technology that they use is the fact of you're supposed to make people to where they're non-reactive to such things. And it is just appalling that it would be like that in some of the things that they're doing. But this is another example of coercive control. Humiliate, and I think that it carries on the next one. I don't think it should have been a separate one. Humiliating, degrading, or dehumanizing you. And that's a great way when you have someone who is part of an organization and you want complete control of people, is you make them dehumanized. They're no longer human beings. They're objects, they're tools, they're things like that. And you have the ability to basically, if you don't look on them as humans, you are valueless. You are property. You are a tool for that organization. And the horrible aspects of it is that, when you take away the human side of things and there's no value to people, what are you actually working for? So that's something that controlling your finances. Okay, so think about it. You're supposed to be getting paid $50 a week. You're dependent upon the organization that you're part of for your food, your housing, your clothing, all those things. And then you're supposed to be getting, $50 a week for what you're doing, supposedly to be a volunteer to the organization. And, so that's definitely one that fits in there with the fact that they are controlling your finances. Or look at what they're doing to members who come to the big outings or events that they have, where they literally cannot get on to the next step in the event till they've gone and sat down with someone who is going to hit them up for courses or things like that, trying to drain every cent out of them that they can. And so you see there what's going on with that. And then you have making threats or intimidating you. I think a great example of that is the fact when they say, that if you blow, you're not going to be able to speak to your family. You're probably not going to be able to see your parents again. You're not going to be able to talk to those that you love. And I think that falls in great with the fact that you are threatened and intimidated by it. And so what do you think looking at that list, Chad?
I think it's almost verbatim Scientology, what Scientology does.
So, and I see Aaron still going on. Wow.
Wow.
He's have quite a thing going tonight. I thought it was supposed to be a short one.
Yeah, same here.
Let's see here. Let me go back and see if we have any others here. Let's see. All right. Dylan Chatterton. Why is cop considered a bad word in the police community? I've heard you mention it a few times and said it doesn't bother you, but I didn't know it was bad in the first place. It's a slang, and generally it's basically along the lines of calling a police officer a pig, calling them pork, stuff like that. Or, people, we walk into a home or a building and people go, I smell bacon. It's all about
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's an insult. Yeah, we can call each other cops, things like that, but for most people it is a matter of, it's a derogatory slang towards law enforcement, and that's why it's come to be a bad thing after so long.
And for anyone that doesn't know, I learned on one of Poe's earlier streams that the word cop comes from, they had copper buttons on their uniforms, right?
Excellent. Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, back in the day, they had these huge, heavy wool coats like they wear in Britain with the old bobbies and stuff like that. And they actually had these wooden forms that they put around the buttons so that they could polish the buttons without getting the polish on the uniform itself. And those work great in cities like Boston and New York and stuff like that, where it gets cold as can be. I'd be interested to see how does it affect people out west and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the reason why cop it's a negative slang that are used for law enforcement. The prison of the mind and spirit, they break them down to follow the group's directives. Yeah. And that's what we were going over with the coercive control. The symptoms of it is basically you have, this organization brings you in, makes you feel like you're special and you're part of it. And once you start getting your mindset, you start following the directives and the objectives of the organization, that's when the control aspects of it go into. And someone else had pointed out, it's not just Scientology. Pretty much any of your cults do that. And then you have the organizations, Jehovah's Witnesses, Latter-day Saints, the polygamists, they all have these things. And what they're doing is they're basically using, you're going to go to hell if you don't do what we tell you to do. And then on top of it, you have the fact of they're separating you from the only family that you know, which would be the organization. So it's a very it's one of those things where you're brainwashing someone into your belief standards and following your directives. So let's see, Nerman. It's weird. Hubbard labeled everyone in SP enemy of the group, doing most good. The Sea Org. It's. I just I mean honestly, I think Elron narcissist. I don't know what I'm not a psychiatrist, but I definitely think there was some real issues going on there. This guy literally thought himself as a, if not a god, then a prophet or a deity. And that's horrible. Aaron, Alaska, some of the villages have to call the police. That could take them 2 days to get there. They have something called village public safety officers. They don't have guns and have their own set of rules. Yeah, that's very correct. I don't have a lot of dealing with anything out of Alaska. I just know things that I've heard, and I've been to Alaska, but I don't know a lot about the law enforcement situation. I just know from things that I've saw that you have one trooper who's in charge of like 200 square miles, and they have to respond to all the calls there. Sometimes they have to be flown in a plane, taken in by helicopter, or they'll get to a certain point and have to take snowmobiles the rest of the way. So being a cop in Alaska, well, that's got to be a lot of fun. How convenient of Hubbard to do so back in 1954. There's, what I find amazing is how old so much of that stuff is. Let's see, there we go. Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons fit that bill too. Been there, done that. Yeah, exactly. Like I was saying, it's not just Scientology. It's other groups that would be considered cults or mind control groups. Yeah. Let's see, Nerman, it was never proven that Dianetics cleared anyone. Yeah, I mean, well, there's the classic case of where I forget where they were at. I think it was Philadelphia. And he was speaking to a crowd, and he brought someone up from the crowd and claimed that this person was clear and had the ability to remember everything that they'd saw, photographic memory, those kinds of things. And someone on the crowd said, okay, turn and look away from him and tell me what color his tie is. He couldn't do it. So, and that took a big hit to it. You have to request use of electronics if and the equipment has spyware. I need you to expand a little bit more on that, Catherine. Let's see. That's the Goldie. All right, let's get on down here some more. Surveillance also isolates you because you can't trust communication and information anymore while in. Exactly. And most people know that they know what's going on with those kinds of things, and they know that everything that they're doing is it's monitored. Someone's taking a report on you. Boss mama. No, he literally said, I got all the time in the world tonight when he started. Wow. Okay. Wow. And I think Goldie's referring to cop. Yeah, there we go. Of course, the pig thing, but cop, I had no idea. Yep. So next time you get pulled over, Goldie, which I hear is about every 3 to 4 hours, you're being pulled over. You call the officer a cop, see what happens. No, I'm joking. I think you remember about the buttons. Yeah, that was from one of my early streams. And thank you for Chad for listening.
Chad's got the brains.
Let's see. Switching to a different device from phone, still watching. Comment on the rewatch. Yeah. Hey, thank you for being here. We really appreciate you. Let's see if we're going down. Let's see. There are over 900 cult groups operating within the U.S. per Stephen Hassan.
Oh,
it amazes me. But I think that in this day and age, especially since the pandemonium that just happened and everyone feeling so isolated from the rest of the world, that they've taken on these online lives and identities. And what's going on with that is that you have a lot of folks that are, now that they're able to get out and travel and go and meet with people, they're looking for a way to get themselves as part of an organization or a group or just an identity altogether. And it's so easy to pull them in. There's a lot of people that say, I can't believe, a lot of people who were into these groups, they're just like, I never even realized it till I was out of it, that I was actually in this kind of organization. And that's the thing is that they're very deceptive in the way that they handle things. They ease you into it, and before you know it, you're under their control. So I'm not surprised there's so many groups, because there's a lot of people with that narcissistic kind of personality where they want to be so important. They want to be the center of attention. And that's how it turns out. So, it's surprising to me. Chad, have you ever had any dealings with any real groups like that?
Cults?
Yeah. Like
The
Jehovah's
closest I came,
Witnesses,
which
things like
I
that.
don't like to compare it because I don't want it to be like, well, I will, but I don't want it to downplay everyone that was in a real cult.
Right.
But I was in an MLN, which was pretty similar.
Oh, multi-level marketing.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's, you know what? A lot of those are considered cults.
Yeah. It was
Because
the leader says this, and,
yep.
we meet in the hotels, and,
Yeah, you're attaching your identity to that organization. You're just not doing it under a religious or spiritual purpose, but it all comes with a lot of the same things. You get hooked in, before you know it, you're under the control of this organization, doing what they're wanting you to do. And, the things like that are just, it's astounding. But there are doctors, there are lawyers, there are politicians who have been sucked into these kinds of groups. So let's see. We got one here from Christine Crowley. Thank you for joining us. Wondering if the new cult is called a community. Well, when you look at a lot of them, that's what they call themselves, is they call themselves a community or a family. And so you had the one, the yogi out there. Where was that? Utah or someplace like that, where he built the big yoga cult out there, and then they started arming themselves, and they were trying to create their own country within the United States. And so they called themselves a community. They called themselves a family. Something that I find really disturbing is how many of them start off as this great thing that's trying to help everyone out. And then suddenly the person who runs it is declaring themselves a deity, a god, or a prophet. And then the next thing you know, they are engaging with female members or male members. I've heard of one where the leader, he preferred men to women. But it's amazing how things like that, it seems like they always come back to that angle. And it was different with Scientology. Everybody that I've talked to who worked with Hubbard, none of them say those kinds of things about him. But in a lot of these groups, that's what it ends up being, as you become so entrenched in it and so beholden to the person running it that suddenly they have a harem. And that, in order to please them, there's certain things you got to do. And I've seen a lot of them where they'll specifically pick out wives of other members to be part of their harem or to use them in that way. And the thing is that here you got, these people are doing this because they believe that they're doing right by it, when you got someone who's just using people. So yeah, being part of an MLM, Chad, that's part of part of what a lot of people would call a cult. I know my wife and I went to what is it now? The big one that started here in Michigan, Amway. We went to an Amway meeting, and just the way that people were acting and talking and all that, I was like, nah, I don't want nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
so.
This was like the, what do you call it? Like a clone of Amway, like the lesser,
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well, you know that there were different groups that were owned by the same company and founders that operated almost identically, but had different names. And my understanding is that the reason why they had different names and they were different companies is because such a negative name came with that personification.
And the one thing about my MLM was they didn't even want you to, when you were trying to sell it or pitch it, whatever, they didn't even want you to tell them the name of the company. They wanted to keep it mysterious.
Yeah.
Like they want you to do questions. Are you interested in making extra money or something? All these crazy,
What's that one? There's a documentary on, it's a multi-part documentary. It's on Netflix. I know the wife watched it. She was hooked on that stuff. And it was basically the same thing where you had people were getting in there, and a lot of them turn out to be pyramid type or organizations or ways of running things where basically you are funding yourself through money brought in from bringing people into it. And it just goes up the chain. And basically the whole pyramid idea of it is that the people at the bottom are the ones who are paying all the money, and it's feeding its way up to the people up top. And basically, I've said it before, it's a snake eating its own tail kind of thing. And then when people start saying, hey, wait a minute, things aren't right, I don't like the way this is being handled, then suddenly they become the outcasts, things like that. So it's a lot along the same way. In Germany, the derogatory term is bull, although it's been reclaimed by people within the police too. And there was a point where you would, back in the 80s and 90s, if you called a police officer a cop, that was akin to basically spitting in their face. Nowadays, the newer generations, it just brushes off. People call me cop. I don't even think about it anymore. But yeah, it's considered a derogatory term, and that's what it comes from. Frontline PBS had a great documentary about groups in operation in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'll have to take a look at that and see. Yeah. Sophia, the pig thing is also used as a derogatory term here and in Germany. Yeah. That's, when people call a police officer a cop, it's a very degrading kind of, call a cop a pig. It's very degrading because, pigs lay in their own feces, things like that. They're considered very dirty animals. And so that's why
the pig thing is just below the belt. I can see if somebody doesn't know about the cop thing and they do it innocently.
Well, and there are a lot of people that we would deal with as in law enforcement that their whole perspective is, I'm going to try to do everything I can to make this officer lose their professionalism, their demeanor, and attack me. And so you get people do stuff like that all the time. I've literally had people spit right in my face and then put their chin out like, go ahead, hit me. No, just going to lock you up. And there was a time back in the early 90s where something that was really popular with people is they would spit on a police officer and then tell the officer that they had AIDS.
I can't believe someone would even do the first part of that. That's just sick.
Yeah. Lululemon. That was what Lularoe. That was the one. Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. And welcome. Thank you for being back. But yeah, that was real popular. People were doing that. They'd spit in a police officer's face and then go, oh, by the way, I got HIV or I got AIDS. And that only went so far, because then when people would do that, a new law came about here in Michigan where it would be, you did that and you did it on purpose to make the officer fear that they had been given a contractable disease through that. It actually became a felony. I think it was like a 15-year felony for doing that. So when word got out that, hey, you do this, you go into jail, big time jail, big kids jail. And so it started backing off for a while. But yeah, that was a really popular thing for a while. People spitting on officers or wiping blood on us and telling us, oh, I've got HIV or AIDS, and oh, wow, that's really funny, except for the fact I've got children at home. I've got a wife at home. I've got a family that I'm taking care of. Thank you for the fact you hate police because you can't follow the laws. And it's my fault that I have to arrest you because you don't know how to act like an adult or a person that has some kind of common sense.
I think it's unfortunate, Poe, because things like that have never even, maybe because we live in different states, but that's never even,
Yeah. And
across,
I understand. And do not get me wrong. There are people who are police officers who should never have had the badge in the first place. And there are people that are officers who have done absolutely ignorant, stupid, criminal things. And it happens to this day. There is no perfect way of weeding out people in these situations. It's going to happen. All right. There's nothing perfect about the system. But the fact is that holding the other 99% of law enforcement as though we're all criminals because the actions of one, but yet then telling us that we can't look at someone who is best friends and out there with someone that is breaking the law and is being a real piece of what, well, yeah, we're best friends and we hang out together all the time. We do all the same stuff together, but you can't judge me on what they've done. Well, how is it you can judge me on something that an officer three states away did that
Yeah.
I've never met, have nothing in common with, and you have nothing to show that I've actually done anything wrong in the first place? So
Yeah.
it's an insane
It's hard to
situation.
hear those stories because I mean maybe it's because I live in the suburbs.
Right.
But nothing like that happened.
But you hear about it, bigger cities
Yeah.
have, they'll have their corruption. They have things that are going on. There's a series that just ended that my wife and I absolutely loved. It was called Endeavor, which was a prequel to the Inspector Morse television series out of the BBC. And, the thing is it showed that there was corruption even in the great British metropolitan police agencies. And there is here in America. Anytime you have someone that's a public service and, let's be honest, when you can go get a job working as a security officer for a big corporation and make more money than you would as a police officer, there's a possibility that corruption can come into that. It did well for us. We've had a great life thanks to my salary. I've never had to worry about doing anything on the outside. Anytime I've had outside employment or outside businesses, it's not because we were poor and couldn't pay our bills. No, it was because I had an idea that could make us some more money to help build our savings. So yeah, it's crazy. Paw Mom has a great example of that. Power goes to their head is why it changes from saving the world to psycho. And yeah, anytime you have someone that is put in this position where they're on a pedestal and they're being looked at as though they are some kind of spiritual deity in and of themselves, that, corruption of the mind happens quite quickly. You start going from, oh, that's not me, thank you, and I just did this to help everybody else out, to, yeah, of course, because I talk to God directly and he speaks to me and I'm the only person on the face of the earth that he speaks to. Yes, I'm special. I mean, you went through that phase, Chad, for quite a while there. Once your art broke out, suddenly Chad became public enemy number one there. Wow, my goodness. We had to rein him in, have an intervention. So
That's true.
let's see, Nerman. No one speaks negatively fear about Hubbard because of fair game policy. Yeah, and that used to be a big one, but I think Aaron made a great statement tonight, is that Scientology literally is becoming their own worst enemy through the things that they've done in the past and may still continue to do with things such as fair gaming. It has become a point where people actually love being an SP or a PTS. And that shows, because here it is, you have folks that are openly speaking out against Scientology that have never been part of Scientology. Look at me. I've never been part of Scientology. And I started off on one point and I kept going. And, it's through my work with human trafficking and other things like that, being a law enforcement officer and then being in the military. I spent the majority of my life in service to my community. So for me, this was a natural step. I'm no longer as a police officer. I'm still out there trying to protect people, still trying to do the right thing. And a lot of people are taking this very seriously because they're seeing what's happening. I think Aaron may have ended because we just jumped up quite a few viewers real quick.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Let's see. And Chad, if you see anything in the comment you want to talk about, make sure you hit on it.
Sure.
The pig didn't used to be specific to police, though. It's a general insult originally. Yeah, but it has morphed itself very quickly into a police specific thing. It may have started off as just an general insult to anyone else, as you are a low grade human being without value, or you're a dirty person, things like that. And I, you know what? I've been guilty of it. I've gone into homes where you have hoarders and things like that. And it's like a pig lives here, and let me tell you something, going into homes of hoarders is not like going into just a sterile place where they have a bunch of stuff laid around. As I was talking about going on the DOA where the person had passed away in the upstairs of a home where they had been a hoarder for 20 some years. On my way up each and every stair, there were plates, bowls, things like that with rotted food in them. So it's not just a matter of the safety of the fact that if there's a fire, how do you ever get to that person? Like I said, we had to have the DPW come in and literally haul out truckloads of newspapers that were stacked to the ceilings because we didn't have enough room to get the stretcher in from the medical examiner's office up there and get that person down. So it's not just a matter of that. There's the health concerns of you have rodents, you have insects, you have this rotting food, all these different things that are going on. And it's just all around, it's a bad thing. And I understand hoarding is a psychological problem. All right. But when you're having to deal with it there and firsthand, it's very hard on you as a first responder who's trying to help people out. I see Marjan's in there. Leslie Bishop. Hey, what's going on? All right, let's get on down here. Oh, okay. Goldie had put in there that she had to go feed her husband, and Daniel wanted to know if he knows the kind of poison she's feeding him.
Wow.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Colonel Brock, rock it out with Kim. Hey, what's up? Let's see. Marjan, I heard that the LA sheriff is mostly gang. Have you ever heard about that? I've heard that there's been a lot of infiltration from a lot of the cartel type gangs coming out of Mexico and South America. I would say no, they're not mostly gangs. You got to remember there's several different levels within California law enforcement, especially in the LA, San Francisco areas. Your big cities, LA, San Francisco, they're bigger than the sheriff's departments, if I remember correctly. They're huge departments. So the sheriff's departments kind of take a back seat in how things go. But, I'm sure there are people who have gotten into both the LA Police Department, LAPD, and in the sheriff's department and have gang affiliations. I know a young man who is a Detroit police officer that in his youth, he was part of a gang, a very notorious gang, but he never had any felony convictions and things like that. He turned his life around, and now he is actually a supervisor within the Detroit Police Department and a heck of a good cop. And, that's the thing is that, there's a reason why they call it rehabilitation when you go into the criminal justice system. And that's because if a person, we want that person to learn from the crimes that they committed and what they've done to other people in the crimes that they've committed. And we want them to be able to turn around and become better citizens, be better people. And, I think that there not enough people have been given second chances. I think that there are a lot of laws that have come out that are absolutely over the top. Here in Michigan, we had a law that if you had, I think it was 365 grams of cocaine or one of the tier 1 narcotics, you automatically got a life imprisonment. Tim Allen, the guy from the Toolman show and all that, the comedian, he was actually sentenced under that, and he was able to get a big break on it. And you see what's happened. He's turned around. He's a great father, and he does a lot for community, things like that. But think about if he'd never gotten that chance. As a police officer, there were a lot of laws that I absolutely disagreed with. I have always thought that marijuana should never be an illegal substance. It's a naturally occurring herb that grows all over the world, basically. I've never thought it should have been on the criminal level that it is. I've always thought it should have been handled more like alcohol. And, now we're finding out more and more and more about the positive effects from that plant. And we're talking non-narcotic effects. We're talking about the CBDs, things like that. And there's a lot of things that got overlooked because this herb, naturally occurring herb, was put on tier 1 with heroin and other drugs and made so illegal. And when you look back at the history of how it became illegal and why it became so illegal, it's all about this, the almighty dollar. And that's where it happened. So yeah, it's crazy.
It is.
People will abuse this system if they get power. And if you let it happen, you're part of the problem, but it's also not everyone's individual fault in the organization. Yeah. But as a commander, lieutenant, as a chief of police, I had power, but I also thought that I had the greatest amount of pressure of anyone to make sure I do the job right. And so, no, it doesn't. It doesn't always happen, but the small percentage of people that actually abuse those situations, power, and the position that they have, that they make it bad for everyone else. And so society nowadays has such a bad reputation of, if one person does something wrong, then everyone's guilty of it. All right, Leslie Bishop. Hey, I'm late, so if this has been discussed, no worries. But question, Chad, can you talk? Oh goodness, Windows security needs updated. Chad, can you talk just a bit about your experience in the MLM?
Yeah, I can give you a little more. I mean, I think I ran through a little bit, but it was similar. And I don't really like to give the example because I don't want to downplay everyone's, in real situations like cults. I just lost some money. My situation was everything they said you couldn't pin it as a lie. It was just like best case scenario, which never will happen. And it was similar to, like I said, the leader says this, and we had trips to the hotels, and everyone, claps just like they do with the org thing or whatever stuff like that. And you're pressured to get people. They don't say the word pressured, but you're encouraged to get more people in, and this way you have to. It was basically like. It was almost like studying. It was almost like being in school because you went to these seminars and stuff. And I actually did the things that, because you think you're going to make money. So I did the things they wanted and it didn't happen. So eventually it was like, forget this.
Now, did they do like I was talking about with the Amway meeting I went to? And then when you go to, if you've ever been to a timeshare sales event, you kind of see the same thing where everybody's just clapping and they're all, yay. And they're so, this is awesome. This is great. I'm so proud to be part of this. And was that the kind of atmosphere?
Yeah. The alleged leaders would say about how much money they make. And this is my literally my Maserati, and just the same exact, and because they don't, all their tactics do work.
Oh yeah. I remember we had bought a timeshare years ago. And when we went to the sales proposal, they're walking us down the hallway and they show the owner of this company. And there's all these pictures of the owner, CEO, whatever you want to call him, with all these celebrities. And, it's just picture after picture after picture. And everywhere you look, there were pictures of this person. And I'm sitting there thinking the whole time, is this person using all the money they're making off of us to be able to get in with all these celebrities so they can get these pictures with them? And I just remember it was so, I don't know how to say it, but it was, to me, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went in and you got sat down. It was very high pressure sales and all that. Well, no, we're not interested. Okay, hold on. Let me get my supervisor. Supervisor comes over. And, they lied to you first off. They said, we're going to give you this great, you're going to come in for this meeting. It's only going to be 90 minutes long. You're going to be able to get this great meal and all that. I mean, it was some brown and some served sausage, some packaged hash browns that they threw in a microwave or something like that. So it literally seemed like powdered eggs they'd put together to make scrambled eggs. It was a disgusting meal. And then on top of all of it, they said 90 minutes. Well, no, we were there almost 4 hours and you couldn't leave. If you left, then, what we had done was we had booked a vacation at this resort. And the thing is if you didn't sit through the presentation, then you all automatically lost the rest of your time that you're going to be there. And of course, they did this on the very first day. Yep. So we had to sit through all that. And then what they didn't tell us was that every day someone was coming to our unit and they would be there at the crack of dawn, waking you up so that they could put you through another sales pitch. I tell you what, when that vacation was over with, we were so happy to be gone of that place.
That's pretty bad.
Seneca, hey, thank you for joining us. Ron just wrapped up his marathon anniversary stream. Came over to check you out. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me get on down here.
Yeah.
Purple Groovy, welcome from St. Louis. And we talked about that before. My daughter lived over in Hazelwood.
Nice.
And I believe St. Louis was named after you, wasn't it, Chad?
I heard that somewhere.
Let's see here. Matt Elliott catching up at 1.5 times the speed. So we'll see if you get caught up. All right. Awesome.
Sounds like he is 10xing it.
Let's see. Question. Do you know Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd? If so, what do you think of his style? I don't know Grady. I know that I met him at a convention somewhere, but I don't know him. And he walked in like he was royalty. I think that, I love the way he talks about stuff, but I think that a lot of times he thrives for that attention from the media and things like that. And sometimes I think that some of the stuff that he says, he goes overboard on, or some of his thoughts on things. But it's great to see someone getting out there and putting, this person did this. Here's a picture of them. This is what they did. This is what we're charging them with. That's great. I think that sometimes there's too much personal feelings or insight into it that get placed in there. And I don't think that that's good. But you got to remember, a sheriff is a politician. They are an elected official. So every time, there's no such thing as bad media unless you're doing something, involves children. So, every time you get yourself on a national news broadcast or you get 1 million views on YouTube, that's that much longer you're going to be in office. So, like I said, I think he has a fantastic department, a very good working department. But you got to remember, he's an administrator. And when he sits there and says, we did this, we did that, he's talking about it. Most likely it's going to be, he's talking about his officers, his detectives. They're the ones that did it, but that's how it works with politicians and with someone who's in a position like that. Daniel Sander, what's your view on video games involving the police? Forgot to ask earlier. The thing is that it's going to fall under First Amendment freedom of speech. You're allowed to create these alternative worlds. I'm a huge fan of the John Wick series. I absolutely love John Wick. In the very first John Wick movie, you have the point where the police officer, I believe it was actually a sheriff's deputy, shows up at John Wick's home, looks in, sees all the dead bodies, looks at John and goes, "Are we working again, John?" "No, just cleaning some things up." "I'll let you have at it." I mean, that looks very bad for law enforcement. But the fact is that, there's so many things I worry more about with video games than police, and things like that. Look at GTA, Grand Theft Auto, one of the biggest things. And I never do the playthrough on the GTA. I literally get out there and play it where you're just taking vehicles and running from the police the whole time and trying to jump as far as you can and do the craziest stuff. I never play the game story out with them, but you just have to take it for what it is. I worry more about people who go out and make videos of police interactions, edit them out to where the police look like they've done something wrong, and then it gets 1 million views. And it's a fabrication from the start. Marjan, I heard about it on NPR about LA Sheriff's Department. Yeah, I haven't heard that. But it's possible. But then again, it depends on who's telling it from NPR and what their actual proof of it is. I need to know more. If you talk about redemption, you got to practice it. Yeah, very, very much so. But I've always been one of those that I truly believe in. A lot of people, except in certain circumstances, deserve a second chance. And I believe that a lot of times that our criminal justice system is truly in place, and it harms those who are of lower income status than those who are wealthy. And I think there's a lot of reforms need to be done to it. And I really like the fact of nonviolent misdemeanors that are minor infractions to begin with, a cashless bond system where you're not damaging this person and putting them into a countless loop, an endless loop of having to deal with fines and costs and warrants and things like that. So Purple Groovy, Union Station is really nice to come down. Oh yeah. We actually visited there. I really liked it. Willie Weed, many drug arrests are totally victimless crimes. I don't know about that. When you're talking about heroin, meth, things like that, let's look at the amount of people that are dying every day from fentanyl. Possession of a narcotic is one thing, but if you DFO, which means done fell out or pass out because you're using narcotics, and the needle's laying around and a child picks it up, that child ends up with some kind of venereal disease or a STD, or they actually overdose because of that. There are saying that drug arrests are victimless crimes isn't always the case. As it pertains to marijuana, that I think, yeah. I think that's a different thing. If you're growing it for your own personal purpose and you're not giving it to anyone, it's clearly for you and things, where's the victim at in that? So, but also the way that crimes are set, many crimes may not have an actual victim in society, whereas society as a whole is the victim of that crime. So we have to look at it that way as well. Let's see, Colonel Brock, appetite stimulant saved my life. Well, you got to give us some more than that. Come on, Brock. Michelle R., welcome. It was politically motivated, the criminalization of marijuana. No, it was financially motivated, and then it became a political motivation as well. But what you had someone who roped in a big religious leader who was well known throughout the entire country, paid him a bunch of money, got marijuana, made an illegal substance, pushed it to the top of the charts up there with heroin and other things like that. And it all came down to this person had a business that thrived off the fact that marijuana or hemp could be made illegal. And that's where it started off from. And then you have the drug wars that came in with the civil asset forfeitures. And you know what? A person driving down the road and has, a couple grand cash on them, and officers are taking their money because a dog sniffed it and found chemical substances on it through a check of canine. Well, it's already been proven. You can go into any bank in this country, and you're more than likely going to get money from that bank that has some kind of chemical substance on it. So I think those things, not good at all. I thought that things were going to be a lot different when President Obama moved in and he said, we're going to deal with all these forfeitures and things like that. The only thing that changed with it was it went from the local municipalities that were taking these asset forfeitures, and it was actually shoving money straight to the federal government. It wasn't changing anything. All it did was it changed who was getting the money. I can tell you for a fact, there was an instance where we had a subject that was sitting in a vehicle right in front of an elementary school. We knew this person had a history of narcotics and selling them. We made an approach on the vehicle, $15,000 cash, 32 packets of heroin, over 40 packets of crack cocaine, a loaded 357 laying on the seat next to him. That's an instance where civil asset forfeiture is deemed necessary. A cartel that is pumping fentanyl into this country, and they are making billions of dollars to where they're actually using warehouses where they count the money out, put it into stacks, wrap it in plastic on pallets. Civil asset forfeiture. So that's where, and that's one of the things they found with the big cartels and things like that is if you hit them where the money's at, that destroys them. So, I think on the lower end, the civil asset forfeiture and the way that it's gotten out of control, a good example is the grandmother in Louisiana coming home from a bake sale, had a couple grand in cash from the money that was made off of the bake sale, had all the things, the ingredients that she was using to make food for that bake sale. Officers pulled out a Ziploc baggie that contained flour, said it appeared to be cocaine, forfeited all the money, took her car, took all the assets they could from her. And the thing is that the way that these asset forfeiture laws are set up, it's so hard to fight them to get your money back. And I've seen situations where they're taking money from people, and what they do is it's easier to turn it over to the government and let the government fight the case because they got the bigger pockets. So what they do is they take the money, put it into the bank, sign a check out to, and looks like something's going on with my internet. I don't know what's going on, but they're signing a check out to the federal government. And here's the question. If I go to fight to get my money back, do I, who am I getting it from? Because my money's still controlled by that law enforcement agency. So that's a real question I would have on that. Let's see. I think they should legalize all drugs in the country. There's a lot of coming in the Arizona, even through the underground tunnel. I'm torn on that. I really am. because I see areas where they basically decriminalized narcotics. And then you have shanty towns of people that are indigent, homeless, and you have needles and you have different paraphernalia from those narcotics that are out there. There are cases of children picking up a needle, accidentally stabbing themselves with the needle, and overdosing. So I'm really torn on that, because my first thing is I want to protect the children, and that's what I care about more. You're not streaming on your channel. I try to pop onto. Somebody let me know, is my stream back up?
Oh wow.
Let's see. Can you see me, Chad? Let me check.
I'll check.
Let me check on YouTube real quick. Let's see here. I'm checking. Yeah, I'm back on streaming. So.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, yeah. So it popped off for a second or so there. All right, let's get okay. And thank you, Seneca. I appreciate that. Can you ask Chad to unblock me? Otherwise, I may need to recreate my YouTube account. I don't have no idea what's going on with that, so I don't know. Let's see. I saw Willie Weed. My arrest for ganja was since I'm disabled and wasn't allowed to say that to the judge. That's interesting. Are you talking about for a fact of the HIPAA laws? And I see, hold on, clicked it too quick, and had a state license and couldn't talk. You know, the thing is, I don't understand how that comes about. Here in Michigan, when we had the medical marijuana cards, people would, they would. I have a medical marijuana card. They'd show us the card to show proof of it. That's not violating their HIPAA laws. What it is you're not asking for the specific disability, just for the fact that the state has deemed that person is medically disabled. So let me know a little bit more about that, Willie. I did a 2 financial planning one and a phone one without losing my mind, thankfully. Oh, you're talking about MLMs. Yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do some. I'm telling you what, the one I went to for, the wife and I went to for Amway. Oh my gosh, you talk about pressure. My goodness. Let's see. Too much grandeur and show undermines their own argument in selling quality product. MLM, yeah. It's all about the spectacle of it. So, long time ago, was a witness at a restaurant with a separate party room. Mary Kay meetings sounded more like Pentecostal church service. I've never been to one of those, but yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, everyone, you see these folks out there doing these kinds of things like Mary Kay and things like that. They are so pumped up, ready to go. Let's see, Terry Ray. I have a close friend who sells Mary Kay. She cycles through being all in and not doing a thing. Those conventions she goes to fires her up. Really, who uses MK these days? I haven't seen one of those pink Cadillacs in how long?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah. Let's see. Jennifer M. The public shaming is a lost art. My hubby was a top sheriff in India. Back in the 50s, he would make the men lawbreakers walk through the streets with a placard around their neck. And that was something that happened a lot of places around the world. But, we've this mentality where you have a lot of people who are actually out there breaking the laws, doing things they shouldn't be. And what's happening is that, there's so much of the population are like, no, that's not good. You can't do that. You can't do, my brother or my sister, so again, I believe in second chances, things like that. But, maybe if you had to walk around with a sign saying I stole or something like that, instead of going to jail, I'd take that any day of the week. Got pulled over by the popo one day, and he approached the car and said that he smelled marijuana. And I said, I didn't smell it until you walked up, officer. He laughed and let me go. Yeah.
Nice.
It's crazy here in Michigan, because with it being legal, and it's legal for recreational and medical, which means that if you're over the age of 21, you can go into a dispensary, show your proper identification, and you can legally buy it. You're allowed to have, I can't remember the exact amounts anymore because it's changed since I retired. But, we do it. So the thing is here it is, you can literally sit at a traffic light and you can smell marijuana, and it's crazy. And you know, it's almost shocking because you come from the days when it was completely illegal, and now you just freely smell it on the streets. It's crazy. You didn't even talk about the drug crimes that are victimless filling our jails. You know, yet again, you know, that would fall under, you know, what is it, what's going on with it. But you know, there are a ton of people who were arrested for possession of marijuana, which is now legal in the state of Michigan, who are still in prison at this time. The problem is that when they got arrested and they got convicted, it was a crime. It doesn't change the fact that they broke the law. You know, even though public view of what that substance is now is completely different. Now it's legal, but at that time, you violated the law. And like I said, there are many laws that are what would be considered society is the victim of that law. Do I agree with it? I think that the folks who are in jail for possession, sale, those kinds of things of marijuana, I think that they should be out. And I thought that our current president was going to make it so that people could get out of jail for it, but apparently things have changed on that attitude. Sea heads will steal you blind. The monster stoner is knock you down for a box of yeah. You know, that's the thing is that people talk to me about, well, you know, marijuana is so bad and all this, it turns people into, you know, everybody has their own thing and they have their own reason for why they went from one narcotic to another. I'm not, you know, but the fact is what I know when people talk about alcohol as compared to marijuana. I've never seen anybody come home and burn a fatty and then beat their family. I've never seen, you know, most of the time they sit on the couch, eat, play video games. So yeah, I mean, there's a difference. There is a difference in the narcotics. People putting drugs and drinks at parties and such is also an increasing problem here. Daniel Sander. Yeah, it's always been one. Think, you know, and the problem is a lot of these narcotics, the GBH or GHB or whatever it's called nowadays, it's literally cut out of the system so quickly that it's hard to determine. Sometimes you have to go by the statements of the victim of it and what has happened with them. Yeah, I've dealt with cases like that before. It's not good. I'm Jeff D. It's all good. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, cool. Excellent. Let's see here. Yeah, you know, and that if you have a good attorney on that, Willie, he says you can't speak unless the judge lets you. You are afforded the right to speak, but there are certain laws in court and things like that you have. And I'm going to be doing some live streams about some people who really don't understand what they're doing and they try to represent themselves in court. You know, but the thing is that if it's pertinent, evidentiary to the case, a good attorney should be able to help you out with that. You know, the problem is that, and I'll tell you, there are judges who think that because they are a judge, that they are all powerful and they are their own government unto themselves, or even some cases they think of themselves as their own God. But yeah, you know, a good attorney might have been able to get that knocked out through an appeal. So Arizona, it is legal in the state, but not in every county. You know, which is interesting that, you know, in a lot of states, if state makes something legal, county can't make it illegal. You know, it's interesting how that works. I know that down in Kentucky, they have what are called dry counties, whereas alcohol is legal in the rest of the state, but that county, it's actually illegal. And it's all going to come down to the state constitution and the way that they do the charters for each of the city. How much trouble would a 56-year-old Floridian get for being caught with less than an ounce of and I don't know what the Florida laws are. Here in Michigan, you wouldn't be in any trouble at all. But it's all going to come down to your state laws. I think Florida has some really tough ones, though. Let's see here. Let's see. Tampa Bay man. Let me find that. Let's see. And thank you for that super chat. Appreciate it. Why aren't police educated in the law? All of us need to know our rights. Peeps, know your rights. I'm just trying to figure out what you mean. Why aren't police educated on the law? That was the majority of my, what do you call it? Of the police academy, was the fact that, it was about learning the law, learning it word for word for word. So it's interesting. I can't speak to as where you're from, but in almost every state, the police do know the laws. We have constitutional classes. We have all of that. Just because you disagree with something doesn't mean that they don't know the law. So, and there are people who, unfortunately, they're lazy or whatever. They don't keep up with what the laws are. Willie Weed, I've been disabled for 16 years in government housing, got a felony for admitting I smoke. And that's going to come down to where you live and what the laws are for that. And I think, I agree. It's insane that would happen. Leslie, have you ever seen any of your officers being involved in a suicide by cop? Yes. And I don't like talking about it, but for those of you who don't know, a suicide by cop is basically a person who wishes to end their existence. And so in order to do so, they pull a weapon on a police officer with the intent of the officer using their duty weapon.
Jeez,
it's devastating. Yeah. You've never heard of that?
No.
Yeah. It happens. I wouldn't say it's common, but it does happen. And the fact is that when these situations happen, it's just horrible all the way around. So let's see, Matt Elliott, my hometown of Colander, Ontario, around 1,500 people, small village. We pay for the North Bay PD 60-ish K for coverage, and a lot of areas do that. We have a lot of townships that have villages and cities within them that do not have the financial ability to have their own police department. So the township police respond to the calls, or the sheriff's department, and they are paid for doing so. Let's see, Willie Weed, judge wouldn't let me speak to say I am disabled and have a medical card. My lawyer didn't meet me until after the thing started. That's just bad coverage all around. You got in a bad situation. I'm just wondering how old that is, Willie, whether or not you'd be able to turn around and appeal that at this point and possibly get something done about it. Let's see. I went before the same judge again and got my, okay, excellent. Judge. Wow. The amazing thing is that, like I said, sometimes judges are people too. They have bad days, they have good days, but the fact is that sometimes you just don't know what you're getting. I've had judges that I've been friends with. We've had great conversations, always talk, always, just person to person, never worry about that judge officer thing or anything like that. And we're not talking about in court. We're talking about outside of the courtroom itself. And walked in and they just literally just go off on me. And it was a matter of they'd had a horrible day. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's just BS that it should happen like that. And I would hope that it isn't making people, end up losing their freedom because of it. But, have you ever been to court, Chad?
Yeah. I don't go to court without an attorney. I don't care what it costs.
Folks, I'm telling you right now, when they say a person that represents themselves has a fool for an attorney,
yeah,
think about that. Just think about it. All right. If I'm criminally charged with something, now a city ordinance misdemeanor, that's one thing. I can go in and I can fight my own thing on that. And I actually won that case because I was in the right. But if you're criminally charged with something and you have the possibility of going to jail,
yeah,
I would hope you would seriously consider having representation of an actual bar licensed attorney. Will the master sentence allow victim statements? It should. My understanding is anytime that you have a sentence, you have something like that, is that they many states are required to have victims there being able to make their statements. Purple Groovy, you can get locked up for a 20-pound bag of green while these youngsters go on shooting sprees without a care in the world. I think it's just it's amazing. But you also got to remember, you get caught in that shooting spree and the rest of your life is in jail. Yeah. So it's not a matter of whether or not you are, it's fair that this law or that, or how things are happening. But the fact of it is that you have a situation where You're pulling someone over for a traffic stop, you smell it, and there it is, and the person ends up going to jail. And that's why I'm so happy so many states are making it legal, so you're not having those problems anymore. I grew up with a huge drinking culture in the country, and while a lot handle it well, a lot don't. Never got an argument against the green with that drinking culture. Less bar fights due to the green. Yeah, exactly. From my experience, everybody just mellows out. They get funny. They laugh a whole lot more. They eat a ton of crap food. And we just went over that one. Thank you. Let's see. No disrespect. My experience in Florida hasn't been, let's say, constitutional. I tend to focus on the bad. You're changing my mind, kind of. Let's face it. I've said it 100 times. I am a retired police officer. I am a former chief of police. And the fact is I will tell you, there are bad in every occupation that there is. It's just with law enforcement, it's a magnified situation where if an officer does wrong, everybody wants to jump on it. Ha! See, even the cops are bad. A small percentage of a massive body of people doesn't mean the whole thing's bad. But yes, there are bad police officers. There are ignorant police officers. There are stupid police officers, just like there are stupid taxi cab drivers. There are stupid hairstylists. There are doctors who really should never have been doctors in the first place. There is bad in everything, but the majority try to do the job right, try to be that officer that they're supposed to be. And the problem is, it doesn't matter how much you do, you're the pig because of what someone else did. And it's a sad situation, and I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about it, but hopefully now you understand that if something like that does happen, you have the ability, you can file appeals, you can bring about lawsuits if you feel your rights have been violated. So, just keep that in mind. Yeah, they do that right there on the side of the road. They put you in cuffs, say, you go to jail, suddenly you're found not guilty or something like that. And things work out a different way. I personally believe that, in situations like that, where officers violate someone's constitutional or civil rights, then why isn't that officer being held accountable for that? So I also, even though I always handle them by the book the way they're supposed to be, I never suggest that you go in and file a complaint against an officer within their own department. I always suggest you go to the agency that's above them. So if it's a city police department, I know that sometimes the county departments won't take it, but you can go to the state police and file a formal complaint there as well. So, even though when people come in, they would file the reports, I would get their information, write it down. I would keep them updated. I would do an actual police report on the fact that they had filed a complaint against an officer and what the findings were, and I kept them in the loop the whole way. But, I can't say that for every department. I can't say that for every officer. So, you take it for what it is. I put my medical card and ID in a plastic card holders on a necklace to keep it. Okay. Yep. And there's a lot of people that do that. And by the way, Tampa, thank you for that second super chat. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's an awesome way of handling it, is putting them together like that. In the state of Michigan, it's actually an infraction to have a concealed pistol license and not have the pistol on you, but have your license with you. So, that's crazy. Let's see. Let's see. Where was that one from? Taking a look here. Yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah. Leslie, it's not that you made me uncomfortable. It's that I know what it's done to officers who've been put in that situation. And it's not that I'm uncomfortable. It's just that the memory of what has happened to those officers and the damage that it did to them personally and psychologically. Not everybody bounces back from things like that. So it's not that it made me uncomfortable. It's just going back to memories of things that have happened. Shirley, welcome, Shirley. I'm always more concerned about the safety of my friends who drink than the safety of my stoner friends. Yeah. I know way too many people that are willing to go out, drink way too much, and get in a car and drive away. And most of the people that I know that are smoking, they don't want to leave. They just want to sit. I know drunk driving has decreased, but has impaired driving increased since the legalization of, that was something that's something I would have to, um,
Good question.
I'd have to look at national statistics on that. I've never even thought about looking that up. That's a good one. I'll look it up and see if I can find you a answer for that. Let's see, Tampa B man. I like you. I don't like the police. Well, you don't have to. That's simple thing of it. Need to take care of myself and kids. When you know your rights, it doesn't matter if the cop is good. Get a lawyer. I would never advise you against getting a lawyer. Always. Just make sure that you're getting a good attorney who knows what they're doing. Unfortunately, I don't get mellow. I quit breathing. Death of a party, literally in high school. A bunch of, wow. Yeah. And, but that's the thing is anything like that. There are people who are allergic to alcohol. I knew someone when I was in the Army couldn't even wear cologne if it had alcohol in it because it'd break them out. So yeah, things like that happen. My mother on like pain relievers, like Norco, Oxycontin, stuff like that, they act like more of an upper. And so it happens. People react differently to different chemicals.
Yep.
Let's see. I'm going down through here. Let's see. Oh, thank you again, Tampa. I've broken the law and haven't got caught. So karma. Well, you know what? Everyone. I've sped. I've done things that would be considered technically an infraction and things like that. Everyone does it and doesn't get caught. That's the thing. And then there are a lot of people that an officer sees someone doing something that would be a very minor infraction or something like that, doesn't even go after them, doesn't approach them, doesn't do anything about it. It's because they have other things that they have to take care of. And the thing is that we've all gotten away with things we shouldn't have. And unfortunately, when we do get caught, it seems much worse than it is. But yeah, I mean, at least you're willing to admit it, and that's the big thing is there's a lot of people who walk around like they're saints and have never broken the law, never been in trouble or anything like that, and they think that they're better. But it's when you're willing to admit and realize that we are all flawed in one way or another. And we just gotta deal with it. It's like Chad, you remember it? Someone asked me, "What's it like being normal?" How would I know?
Right.
How would you know?
Right. Who says what's normal?
Yeah, our own perception of reality. All of us have a different perception of everything and how everything happens. I guess what would be considered normal is what would be considered a community or a public standard on what would be normal. But I honestly don't think there's anybody normal. Nope. So hate Oxycontin and hydrocodone after a baby. It's a curse to take it. I was on it for years. I had damaged the MCL in my left knee, and the amount of pain that I was in was just ridiculous. And the doctor had me on them. I was on the highest dosage of Norco for a long time and had me on 3 doses a day of it. And finally, at one point, I said, I'm just done with this stuff. I hate the way I feel. I hate the way it makes me feel. And I stopped cold turkey. I never had any withdrawals, anything like that. And I come to find out that the Norco was actually hiding other pains that I was having, other problems that I was having. And quite honestly, CBD has been just a fantastic way of doing it. It could be a lotion or something like that I'm putting on the areas that hurt, like my knee. I can rub CBD oil on it, and my goodness, it works beautifully. So, Chad, have you ever tried CBD?
I've taken the liquid.
Mm-hmm.
I should get back to it because it did help.
My wife
relax me.
My wife likes this one. It's an oil. I can't stand it because I can't. It's a textural thing of it being an oil. But yeah, I've found that we had these minor irritations, And the thing is that I have these pains, that because of all the stupid stuff I've done throughout my life, and I was finding that the Norco was masking it. I didn't know that I was having these pains. I stopped taking the Norco. Suddenly I'm feeling these pains, but amazingly, the pain that I started taking the Norco for went away.
Wow.
So it was crazy, but the CBDs helped me out with everything else. And I'm slowly but surely weaning away from a lot of medications that the doctors had me on. Once I stopped taking the Norco, suddenly I stopped having high blood pressure. So the doctor needs to start weaning me off of that. Certain things you can't just stop. But, with that, there are things that, stopping taking the Norco has really started pushing other parts in my life. The blood pressure's down. I'm feeling better. I feel more energetic. I were talking, I've lost 65 pounds in a year. So, I'm feeling better. I have more energy, but man, am I feeling old. So I tried medical and just made my anxiety intolerable for sure. Everyone told me mellow. Glad I tried super sad. It didn't work for me. And it could also be what strain you're using, indica, sativa, whether it be, I would speak to your doctor if it's legal where you're at. And you said you got medical marijuana. So I would go back, talk to the doctor and see what's going on with that, see what they have to say. Maybe there's some other things that they can do. Maybe possibly edibles would help for you. Just don't be like with me. Sister-in-law made cookies, and I had one of the cookies and didn't realize that they'd used butter in it that was made from that. And apparently didn't mix it up so well. And it was not a good ride. First time I've ever felt paranoia with doing it. So I just stick to the stuff I know it's from manufacturer. No sleep whatsoever. Major sleep deprivation. Wow, that's amazing. Now we have some stuff that is CBD based that we use for sleep. And the thing is that, for me, I'm finding that normally I sleep 4 to 6 hours. It's the maximum. But with that stuff, I'm sleeping a solid 8. So, let's see. All right, let's see. What is that from Terry? Someone says, don't throw anything too complex out there. Keep it simple.
Nice.
Got my horn fixed. It was a relay. Thanks for the Wednesday show. Awesome. And folks,
Nice.
if you haven't joined in, every Wednesday night, 8:00, Chad and I get together for Car Talk with Chad and Poe. Chad, you want to talk to them about some of the episodes we've had so far?
Oh yeah, we did. My favorite one was on the electric hybrid show.
Of course.
We did the 4-wheel drive one, and I forgot what the other one was about.
I think the first one was just a flat out just us talking about cars, period. And then, we're trying to get Borderline Simon to join us this Wednesday. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. He has an amazing history with F1 and with living right down the road from the Lotus factories and things like that. And it's awesome.
Yep.
We have a great time and everybody's welcome. Come on, join in, give us questions. Marjan asked us, her horn wasn't working and she couldn't figure out what it was. There's only so many things it can be with a horn. It's either you have a broken line, you have a bad relay, a bad fuse, or the horn itself went bad. So
I think you were right. I think you called that one, Poe.
Yeah.
I think you said fuse relay.
Yeah. And that's, but hey, neither one of us are mechanics. We're telling you from our own personal histories.
And we're not looking at the car either. It's just,
that's a big difference too. Yeah. Your engine's in the trunk. I know. So let's see. I grew up in an area and time where way too many drove drunk and worked out. Most times, lucky, the awareness changed. I never liked the idea of living with the what if I was sober. Yeah. I mean, and you look at the fact of how many people have destroyed entire families or communities because of, and quite honestly, the way I look at it is I look at it as a selfish impulse. You can't control your drinking and you're putting so many people's lives in danger. I mean, there's a series of videos out with a young lady who's a college student who got drunk and she killed 2 or 3 teenagers, and she's sitting there going, I got school in the morning. You ain't going to school. You going to prison. But, I mean, and during the stop, she's laughing. She's having a great time with it. And the next day when she was sober and reality smacked her in the face. Woo. So I know it didn't help, but acupuncture really helped. Oh, I know a lot of people, the thing is that I've been, having been over in Asia, I've had actual Chinese acupuncturists do things with me, and it's worked. There was one here in the Detroit area he's passed away. He was very old, and I went to acupuncture with him, and I had great results with it. But it has to be someone who is very clearly trained in the use of acupuncture. I wouldn't recommend it unless you are very, very secure and they know what they're doing. So yeah, it's one of those that it's on the holistic side or the osteopathic kind of area where it's not traditional Western medicine. But I've seen, how some of those Eastern or Asian medical services that they do work wonders. A great example is I've had massages where they literally get on you, stand on you, and I mean, you feel like you've been beat half to death in these massages. An hour or two later, and your whole body feels like it's brand new. So, it all comes down to your own personal beliefs and what you're willing to open up to. So, Zenu, hey, thank you for joining us. My brother is a correction officer. It takes a special person to do that kind of work. Oh, I can tell you, my brother was one also. Definitely not for everyone. Think about it. You're in a place where the worst of society is being held, and your job is to be the guard of them. And you watch these folks, they come walking in weighing about 350 pounds, jelly rolls. About 3 months later, they're jacked out like Arnold Schwarzenegger, strong as an ox. And these are the people you got to deal with. Yeah. So yeah, it's being a corrections officer, not for me. I let everybody know if they get charged for a felony, most states they get free legal aid if they don't have money to pay for legal fees. Well, that's one of the things that is congruent throughout the United States and it's part of the Miranda rights. Whereas you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to have an attorney present during and before, during, and after any questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you at taxpayers' expense. Well, the thing is that that's part of that whole thing is that if you are charged with a crime that could put you in jail, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to get that legal service of an attorney and paid for at taxpayers' expenses. Now, this is where it gets crazy is if Chad's a millionaire and I'm just working at McDonald's, we both do the same crime, front of the same judge, who do you think's going to get more time?
Yep.
I'm using a public defender because I can't afford to hire an attorney. Chad's got one from the multi-million-dollar law firm. And that's why I say our system's screwed up when it comes to that. And, the problem is public defender's offices are so swamped with the amount of cases that are coming through them that they can't handle half of what they got. And most of the time they're meeting the defendant for the first time they show up in court. So it's not, man, it's crazy.
It's crazy. The public, from the few times that I've been to court, the people, like when you have your own attorney, you sit right next to him. When you have a public defender, like you sit in the back row. Like, come on, what is,
They walk up when it's your case called, or something like that.
Yeah, okay, then, yeah.
Or they come on the Zoom calls or everything after the pandemonium hit. There's so many video conferences and things like that. And I know personally, having known people that were public defenders, and the fact is that they'll tell you, I get paid bare minimum for what I'm doing. I only do this because it helps me out with taxes or something like that. There are some people that do it and love doing it, and they've been able to make a career out of it. But a lot of them, it's your attorneys who just got started in it and things like that. And this is a way to build their experience in cases and things like that. But I have seen it personally where a person will meet with their public defender or their court-appointed attorney, and it will literally be the day of the trial, and it's the first time they spoke to them. So, whereas millionaire Chad there, His attorney's been over at their house 4 or 5 times, had dinner with them, gone over every aspect of the case. When they go in, it's a well-oiled machine. So, and I truly believe that is such a screwed up thing.
That's one thing I will spend. I don't care where the money has to pull from, but I will get a good attorney.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent piece of advice. Is, so you got to eat, you got to make bologna sandwiches for the next 3 months, but it kept you from going to prison for a charge you should have never gotten in the first place. I'll enjoy the bologna.
Yeah.
So, let's see here, Tampa. I'm kind of a smoker that'll clean the house for hours, eat pizza, and sleep late.
Nice.
I can't smoke it. I cough like I'm in a forest fire. That's why if with us it's edibles, and all you got to do is look it up, and you will see that edibles react in a completely different way than smoking it. The way that it metabolizes in your system. Willie Weed vape cartridges I got from Colorado for a while when I first got my card, and it would only last 30 minutes, made from leaves. I'm telling you right now, the other night, that cookie, we're talking 4 or 5 hours. It was a bad one, and I was not happy with it. So, Anhata, and folks, if you don't know, Anhata has her own YouTube channel. Anhata has been on here as a guest on one of my Sunday evening live streams, and she's a friend of the channel, a member of the fam, and she has her own channel now, so make sure you check her out. Show her some love. I drove buzzed exactly once, early 20s, idiocy, though I was okay, not scared myself going over a curb, never did it again. I've never been afraid of how it affects. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that I mean, if anything, I've never done it. I can honestly say that is that if I tried to drive after I had some green, I would probably get stopped for going way under the speed limit and being way too cautious. So, yeah. Seneca, as a kid, late teen, my dad would come home and make cocktails. He always asked me if I wanted one. As a result, when the kids' parents weren't home, they had parties. Yeah, that's a big one. The thing is that there was that mentality for a long time. Everyone had the little bar in their home, and they made the cocktails, had the cocktail parties at the house and stuff like that. And it brought about, there's a whole different mentality about alcohol than there is, say, the green. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Continued. I didn't care about the party and drinking. I was like, hell, I can do this at home. So what is the point? Yeah. And that was crazy. I mean, what's the point of a party if you can do all the same stuff at home? I mean, to be honest with you, we all went to parties to have fun and hopefully get lucky. So that was about the extent of it. I've never been a big drinker. I don't like the taste of alcohol. And in all honesty, the only ones I like the hard ciders. I like the flavor of that. JD is my favorite of that style, the bourbons and all that. Though I do like Pappy Van Winkle, I believe it's called. I had a fifth of that. I had no idea how much it was worth, and it's all gone now. And then when it comes to the clears, I do like some Shine, and I like the Crystal Skull, and then I like the Stolichnaya Silver Label. Let's see. And Tampa MB, as soon as I say I want an attorney, they let me out of the room. Only thing that they'll let you out. Don't waste your time. The thing is that here's one of the reasons why they'll let you out. Say if you're in an interview room or something like that, is you say I want an attorney. They know they can't ask you any questions about the case without your attorney present. And sometimes they will try to trick you. All right. Let me explain something to you folks. It is not illegal or improper for a law enforcement officer to lie to you during an interview. It is not illegal. All right. That's why undercover officers are allowed, things like that. It is not illegal. I've never been a big fan of it unless it was something involving children. And then I could basically cosplay something and to get the person to relax and be more calm with me. But the fact is that law enforcement officers are allowed to lie to you. And it's not unusual. And the minute you say, I want an attorney, I will not answer any more questions without an attorney present, it has to stop. So, and if you are in a situation like that, you know, you have rights and there's nothing wrong with you exercising them. And one of those rights is the Fifth Amendment, the right not to self-incriminate. So, you know, my advice, thank you, Chad, so much with the fact you said, I don't care how much it costs me, I'm going to have an attorney. Yep. My advice would always be, if you're in a situation like that, don't worry about going on the internet and looking things up. You want someone who's gone to school, who has an actual degree in the law. So be very careful. My advice would always be, go with a professional over trying to take care of things yourself.
And so, attorneys are just like doctors. Doctors specialize in different things. You got to have an attorney that specializes in, you know, like mine is, you know, mine is a real estate attorney for my rental property. So you want to have the proper attorney, not just any attorney.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. And make sure that the attorney that you're hiring specializes in what you are facing. Do you want an attorney who only handles automobile accidents representing you in a criminal case? Unless that person is co-trained, where they are trained in both the criminal and the civil aspects, most attorneys will specialize in a field. So think about it. Think long and hard, but remember, you have rights, and do not give up your rights if you don't have to. So, and there is nothing wrong with you exercising your rights. Marjan, do you remember the drunk driver in Kentucky that hit the button? Yeah, I remember that very well. That was back beginning of my career with that. And that's a perfect example, as you had someone who was intoxicated, that was operating a motor vehicle, lost control, hit a bus, and I think they killed almost every child on the bus, died from it. And to me, my personal belief in that is, someone who does that, it's selfishness. I'm out to have my good time, do what I want to do, and damn the consequences. So I have no contempt. I have no, you're done with me. You're out there and you decide to do that, and you take the life of an innocent. I don't want to hear it.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing. You say it's misconduct for you not knowing your rights, but is it? If you don't ask for an attorney and you don't invoke your right, is it misconduct that they keep asking you? Now, if you ask for an attorney and they refused, then there's a problem there. But if you don't invoke your rights, it's not misconduct. All right. Hopefully you have a good, solid officer. And I can tell you from my experience, and this is back from the 2000s, early 2000s, where we would bring someone in and we would do an interview with them. We not only read them their rights, but we gave it to them in a printed form, and we asked them to sign it, stating that they understood their rights. If they said, I don't understand, they refused to sign the form, then we would, we had to handle things different ways. We would actually contact the prosecutor's office on how they wanted to proceed. Now, there are people who are unable to read. There are people with vision problems, cannot read those forms. We would read them verbatim to them. And then we would, it would come down to a matter of, we would sign that document stating that they have been read it. But one thing that always backed us up is we video and audio recorded the interviews, so we could prove it. I didn't violate their rights. I read them their rights verbatim. You can see on the video, they say, yes, I understand what my rights are. All right. And then we would go forward with it. But, I can't speak for every officer, every detective. But, the thing is, let me explain another thing to you. Miranda rights, unless the officer is going to ask you specific questions about the crime they believe you have committed, it is not under Miranda. An officer has the right to ask you for your identification, for your name, for your date of birth, your full name, the correct spelling, those kinds of things. All right. in most states, if you are operating a motor vehicle and you refuse to produce that, you can be placed under arrest for obstruction of justice. All right. Because it is not a violation of your rights, as per the Supreme Court, for an officer to demand your identification. So, Chad, can you take over for a minute? Roscoe's going nuts up front.
Yeah, no problem, Paul. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, take over for just.
All right. Hey, everyone. Hey, welcome, Alex. Good to see everyone. Alex just jumped in, everyone. Let's see, who else do we have here? Southern Mama, how you doing? And Hata. See. Hope everyone's having a great night. Tampa B Man, good to see you. I'm learning a lot tonight, guys. How about you? Poe always has a good show here. Glad to be part of it. I'll let Poe read the super chat, Tampa B Man. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate everyone being here. Oh yeah, Pastor Alex. Well, the main part of it was we did compare the. Poe put up a slide of like women's. I forgot what it was, but it was basically like a women's, like for women if they're being abused or whatever, and it was very similar to Scientology, and about basically everything about being almost like not mind control, but like being controlled, and stuff like that. And then we went over a lot of police. It turned more into like a police type thing, which is, I mean, it's Poe on the go. So, yeah, a lot of police talk, because I think there was a lot of questions in the chat about police talk. And I'm trying to think, because it's been a long stream, so we covered a lot of ground. He took a lot of questions. Yeah, like I said, it ended up being more of a police thing, which is good, because maybe it's because he's been having the police streams. I was trying to page up to some of the old comments. And yeah, I'll page back down here. But yeah, no, it's great to be with you guys. It's been a longer day. I was on the stream with Maryland, Denver, and Juliana earlier today.
That little nutcase. There's a wild cat out here, and he has been going. He goes nuts over it, and you can't get him in. And if the wife or the son tried to go out and get him, he'll turn, because he's so fixated on that cat. He turns on them. So yeah, wow. Great. Hey, Alex. All right. Literally missed the whole thing and have no idea what has been discussed or anything, but I'm here. Hi. Hey, thank you for being here. Alex is one of our buddies. We still got to get together and talk about getting the 4 Horsemen on a live stream. Tampa B Man, thank you for another super chat. Exactly. Didn't know my rights, and that, yeah. And that, but the thing is that, your Miranda rights, if the officers are going to do anything pursuant to your Miranda rights, they have to give you your Miranda rights. They have to read them verbatim. Most departments give out like a laminated card to their officers, things like that. I know in the academy they gave us the laminated card for it. But yeah, you've got, they're responsible to make sure that you know your rights. And some of them they'll skirt the thing. So Seneca, hello, all these streams tonight keeping me from getting back to reading BFG. Yeah, it's I think someone said there are 52 SPTV channels going now.
Yeah, so that's great.
Chad, John B says you look a week younger instead of a week older. Keep going on your healthy eating journey.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I guess it is helping.
Let's see. Yeah, that's great. What are you doing with your program that you're doing there?
Well, I mean, I'm still eating regular food, but I do try to mix it up with the vegan food.
Okay. I've been looking into something called the carnivore diet, where your diet is primarily meat.
Okay.
And I'm hearing some amazing things like that. I especially I'm back on a course where I'm doing a lot more weight work and things like that. I'm doing a lot of cardio as well, but everyone that I'm hearing from is saying, yeah, definitely look into the carnivore diet for that. So I'm going to check it out, and I'll let you guys know how that's
Oh,
going.
great.
Like I said, in a year, I've lost 65 pounds. I'm feeling much better. It's amazing. I'm wearing clothing that I wasn't able to wear for the last 10 years or so. And, that comes from the fact that, I'd injured my back and I wasn't able to work out for a long time. So, I'm able to work out now. Unfortunately, I'm an old man now, and things don't heal quite as quickly as they used to.
You
Alex,
look good though, Paul.
thank you, sir. Thank you. In the UK, you are arrested on suspicion of a crime, and then the case is presented committing X crime. What are your thoughts on the US way of arresting outright of X? Um, if I remember correctly, Britain is the opposite of the United States. United States, you are innocent until proven guilty. It is um, the prosecutor, the police, the government have to prove that you are guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of a crime. And if I'm sure, and I might be wrong because I haven't looked into the British laws, it's you are guilty until proven innocent. And I know a lot of other countries around the world that you have to be the one to prove your innocence. And it may seem like that in the American courts, but the actual fact is that the government has to prove their case that you did commit that crime. And I think that's a much better way of looking at things instead of you are guilty until proven innocent. I like the fact of you are presumed innocent. That's why in America, you do not have to testify against yourself. You can stay silent within your court proceeding and it cannot be held against you. So I think that's a very big point on that. I think that it's a great way of thought. Okay, in Britain, same, you're innocent, so you're never arrested for doing X because it's the assumption of the guilt. We arrest on suspicion of doing X, meaning no assumption of doing it. It's this basically the same thing here. Is that it's under the presumption that you did commit this crime and that there's evidence in the fact that would prove that you have committed that crime. Now, once you get in front of, and believe me, there are dumb cops, all right, that can have a great case and screw it up. And it happens a lot. And I've talked about it on the Cop Talk with Poe series of being a detective and being handed a report and looking at it. And I'm like, basically, what do I do with this? All right. Where's the who, what, when, where, how, why? Where is all that? All right. I've literally seen reports where officers have stated on such and such day and time, officers saw suspect and arrested suspect. And then they put a charge in the top of the report. And that's the basis of their report. And then they get mad when I let the person go and they're like, why'd you do that? And I'm like, well, you went through the police academy. You know what the rules are. You know that you're supposed to put all of this information in your report, and you didn't. You left me nothing to go with. And then you expect me to take the fall because you didn't do your job? No, not happening. And that's the thing is that you have folks who should have never been police officers in the first place. And some people who just don't have the mental fortitude to be a police officer. And that's a bad, bad situation. And most time those people are found out way early in their careers and they're pushed out of it. Something that I don't like is that some departments they have reason to terminate an officer, but they give them the ability to resign instead of termination. And then these people go on and they continue on this trend of being a bad police officer or an unintelligent police officer or just someone who shouldn't be a cop in the first place. They get hired by another department and they continue this trend. And I can tell you, as chief of police, I received a number of applications from people that when I looked into it, they went to this department for 2 to 6 months and then resigned. And then 2 to 3 months later, they're hired by another department, resign within a year's time within that department. It's a cycle that goes on and on and on with these folks. And what it is they keep giving all these chances from these departments. And they just shouldn't be cops. And that's a sad point of it, but that's a reality of it. And I hate seeing those things. So, all right, folks. Well, we are at 2 hours and 40 minutes. Thank you so very much. I know it went a lot longer because of the fact of a Ron and his anniversary special, which I'm not going to fault him for. I mean, hey, have fun with it. But I thank all of you who did come over after after AI Ron had finished, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. Chad, do you have any closing thoughts for this?
Oh, similar. Yeah, I know this is great, guys. Definitely appreciate you, being here, and it was a great stream, and I learned a lot.
There you go. And let's see, Alex has a interesting thing here. Part 1 of 1, for example, you couldn't get arrested for theft. Even if the police officer saw it, they would say they arrest you on suspicion of theft. That leaves the court to decide whether or not you did it. Okay, I get what you're talking about now. Here's part 2. Whereas in the U.S., you would be arrested for theft. Even if you were found innocent in court, you've officially been arrested for theft. It's the same thing. I mean, look at how many times you see people who have been, what is the term they use in British law enforcement? This person, basically your criminal record. All right. And, the thing is here in America, if you're arrested for something, yes, it goes on your record, but it also says on there what happened: dismissed, found not guilty, things like that. And if that's the case, it can't be used against you further on. When I visit the U.S., immigration form isn't have you committed a crime, have you ever been arrested? And that's and that's the thing is that because every country handles their laws and the way of prosecution differently. There are things that in certain countries that if you've been arrested for it, that may exclude you from being able to come into the country. So it's a big thing. And we're talking about immigration, which is, yes, in some ways it is a law enforcement body, but it's a very specific law enforcement body. So that's the thing. But yeah, you get arrested for a crime. All right. It doesn't mean you committed the crime. It means you were arrested for that crime. And you go to court. The case is you're found not guilty. The case is dismissed. That goes right on your record along with it. So, that's different. Do you think it's unfair being arrested for something that found innocent? You still have a criminal record, but you don't, because it can't be used against you. It can't be used as evidence in other cases. It's not, your criminal record's your criminal record. It's like your driving record. You got pulled over for speeding and all that. But, the only time those things come into play is like with your driving record in insurance companies, So, the thing is that even though it may say it may be on your criminal record, it's a record of you being found not guilty or being found innocent or the case being dismissed. So, in one hand, yeah, it's just how it goes. But they make sure that that's put in there, that has to be part of it. If it can't be held against you and you were innocent, why does there need to be a record of it? Because what it does is it creates the record of what has happened. All right. You can't just erase it like it never happened. You were arrested. You were taken into custody. You went in front of the criminal system. And so if they're not putting it in there as to what happened, then everything has to be erased from square one. Well, the fact is that these are public records. Courts have to be auditable by the public for that fact, and it goes on your record. And quite honestly, there are many things that go way beyond my pay scale that I think should be different, but there's nothing I can do about it. I agree. I would love to see it that if you're found innocent, then it would be taken off there. But the fact is that they're going to leave it on there, and there's nothing I can do to change that. And quite honestly, it takes something on a legislative level that's going to cause that to happen differently, or with the SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States. But as for right now, and they've actually upheld it, people who, certain things they have thrown away, like someone was arrested for a felony and their DNA was put into the system. In many states, you're required to submit a DNA sample. And there have been numerous court cases where it's been thrown out because, you were found not guilty. Why does your DNA have to stay in the system? So that's been something that's actually working that way to help clear things up for that. So, all right. So Chad, any closing thoughts on this?
No, just like I said, I enjoyed the stream. I learned a lot, and Yeah, we should do it again soon.
Yeah. And well, next Sunday. So Alex, get with me. Let's see about getting Doug on here, and let's do the
Yeah.
4 Horsemen, brother. I know a lot of people have been wanting to see a return of the 4 Horsemen. Love to see it. And folks, as always, I will be doing my nightly 6 p.m. Cop Talk with Chief Poe. You have any questions on law enforcement or matters that involve that, please let me know. Come and join me every night, 6 p.m. Wednesday night is our Car Talk with Chad and Poe. Hopefully we'll have Borderline Watt on for our next one, and we will have some great talk with his experience with the F1 and living down the road from Lotus. So as always, folks, life is short. You get one shot at it, so make it count.